It's going to be CSO versus Lucifron. We're going to be looking at China for Lucifron versus French for CSO on Bold Lane. We're going to be jumping into that game very, very soon as it's ready. In the meantime, I mean, that is also... Oh, it looks like we're already ready to go. Okay, we're jumping right into it. Everybody, game number 1, Lucifron versus CSO. Here we go. No breaks at all. We're jumping right into it as we... looks like we just need to adjust a little bit the size of the screen. You know, we're very excited. We're jumping right into the action right now. Maybe a little bit too far into the action. We gotta take a step back. There we go.
Indeed, the players are as eager as us to get started, it seems like, as we are here on Borderlands in our first series of the day. As Crackedy mentioned already, it is Lucifron up against CSO. CSO spawning in the color orange to the right side of your screens, playing as the French against Lucifron's Chinese in the color green. And the last time these two faced, Crackedy, you know, Lucifron definitely had his work cut out for him.
Yeah, I mean, Lucifron, he had I want to say, a little bit of a rougher sets that he had to go through in order to get to where he is at the moment. CSO so far, he hasn't even dropped a single game in this entire qualifier set yesterday at all. Like, he just went 3-0, 2-0 in every single possible series so far. Lucifron, though, that's where there's a lot more of a challenge, I want to say, in this one. And him on Chinese up against French, I mean... French, that is like CSO's main civilization, but it's also one where Lucifron is very much familiar with it.
Exactly. Historically, Lucifron has been one of the most feared knight players in the game to date. And that hasn't changed too much today, even after his hiatus. Many people have noticed still that his knight control is essentially otherworldly, really. Of course, he won't be the one piloting the Royal French Knights in this instance. However, his familiarity with them might be crucial in this matchup that he faces himself. As, I mean, Borderlands, Chinese against French, a bit of a classic matchup by now, especially on this map. There are a lot of deer on this map, and by a lot, I mean a tremendous amount. You can just see on the map there. There's 3 tiny packs just outside each player's base, and there are 4 contestable packs, large ones, all towards the center of the map, and these are up for grabs for any player. There's no 2 safe large deer packs per side as there are on your other regular maps like Dry Arabia or Gorge or these kind of maps. All of these can be fought over, which promises a lot of action in this initial phase of the game.
Yeah, especially between these two civilizations. Both the French and the Chinese, of course, are well known for their proficiency of trying to get into like the pro scout meta. The Chinese, they do have to pay full price for their pro scouts, but they do get it a lot faster thanks to the supervision. Also tax benefits, of course. Never forget the tax benefits. Meanwhile, the French, they have to wait the full 1 minute 15 seconds for the technology to come in, but they do get a hefty discount on that. That is actually quite wild, just how many resources you save there at the end of the day. And, you know, it goes to show, the more you buy, the more you save.
Exactly right in this instance. We do see the landmarks coming up now on the Imperial Academy here for Lucifron, trying to get those Imperial officials out at a discounted price, I might add, ASAP, to get that tax rolling in, as well as the supervision for the initial 20% drop-off on those resources on any gathering building that he has. Meanwhile, CSO, no surprises there with the School of Cavalry, no real Chamber of Commerce shenanigans possible on this map. There are 2 neutral trade posts, but the positioning would make it a very bold decision here for either player. Just like you mentioned, Crackedy, these 2 civs especially, due to their high likelihood to go for that pro scout, means that there will be a lot of these initial skirmishes, which, you know, is an instance where Royal Knights definitely shine, but Chinese, with their supervision, can get out so many units, notably those spearmen, which can really put a hurt to those knights if they're not careful with their movement.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is one of those situations, though, where CSO, he doesn't really have, like, very high APM. What he does have, though, is a very efficient means of, like, spreading out his APM. And he's always got, like, really good awareness of where his units are, where his opponent's units are. And that means that even though his APM isn't the highest, he's very quick to react to situations, changes in situations. Like, when there's a spearman, you can pretty much immediately see CSO react, pull the knight back, even like mid-charge in a situation where he doesn't necessarily have line of sight the entire time on a spearman. These are the kind of things that become insanely important at the high level in Age of Empires 4, because if you charge into a spearman brace with your knight, well, you're already going to lose out on half the HP of the knight, and against a Chinese civilization with a hand cannon placement in the TC, it dramatically reduces your ability to do damage with your knights. But right now we do see Lucifron immediately going for the Pro Scout denial here. We already see Spearman in production for him. He's going to go for Pro Scout as well, just on a little bit of a delay. First, though, he wants to get some Spearmen out to try and first off make sure that he's not going to lose any villagers to an early knight, but also just to have a little bit of presence out on the map and be able to deny his opponent from just stealing away the deer from the map.
This is normally the interesting decision-making we see, especially from the Chinese and Zhu Xi, in this kind of a pro-scout-orientated situation where some players do opt for that pro-scout technology before opting for the barracks in order to get that rapid timing in and bring those deer home ASAP and get, of course, the juicy gathering rate from those deer under the mill. However, some, like Lucifron in this case, opt instead for those spears, which is safer, but also in a way more aggressive at the same time, because you can start denying the enemy scouts, like you mentioned, as well as the knights very, very early on here for Lucifron. And what you mentioned earlier about CSO is definitely very interesting. His as we saw before, right? He doesn't have he's definitely on the lower end in terms of actions per minute from pretty much all the top players. However, his control is something to marvel at. I was speaking with a few other players, notably Boltun as well, when we were observing some games. And CSO is incredibly effective at using the shift command to offset his APM disadvantage. He really knows to plan moves for his units ahead of time, almost like a chess player, you could call it in a way. So he's able to use that shift command to offset his APM and plan moves for his units way, way ahead than other players would be able to.
Yeah, that definitely is a very, very big benefit here for him. Just being able to plan ahead with the unit positioning here and there. Now we do see that CSO is already pulling quite ahead when it comes to the pro scouting. Already the first 3 scouts returning with a deer each. That's already 1,000 food guaranteed and safe underneath the town center here from CSO. And I just love whenever he's got like these small groups of knights and he sees like one unit that is just a little bit too far away from the main group of spearmen. He's like, okay, I can give this guy a couple of lap taps, and suddenly the spearmen already down to half HP, while the knights from CSO barely took any damage there.
Archer follow-up from CSO here will be joining these skirmishes to offset an already quite significant massive spearman here from Lucifron, who in turn will answer with his own horseman. So this is a very classic situation we find ourselves in here. The spearman horseman composition up against the knights archers. Very, very scary for the French player in these low numbers, because the full melee composition, the burden of micro and control is so much harder on the French player. You have to make sure that your archers are focusing the spears whilst your knights stay away from them in turn, and sort of body blocking for your archers. As the knight does get caught by the spear, but almost goes down instantly. All of its health is pretty much melted and barely gets away with its life.
Yeah, it is so important to keep these knights alive, and CSO, he's still doing a great job of just making sure that Lucifron cannot just march forward, always going after the reinforcements and the straggler scouts that are trying to bring the deer back behind it all. CSO, he did manage to keep the knight alive, and chivalry is on its way in for him, so he will be able to heal that knight fully back up once that technology comes in, and that is so important because these knights are just such a high value unit, especially in feudal age. 19 damage, 190 HP. That is just not really like a kind of stat card that you would expect from a unit in the feudal age, and being able to heal those up after they take a lot of damage just provides you with a tremendous amount of value. Lucifron, at the moment, he's banking up a lot of units right now.
Yeah, Lucifron is not really slowing down, is he? Normally, sometimes we do see the Chinese and Zhu Xi especially trying to squeeze just the right amount of units necessary to secure as much deer as they can and then go for the car stage ASAP, because these extended feudal situations can be very scary and dangerous when you don't have access to those royal knights like the French do. But Lucifron, I mean, he's going to make as many units as necessary to potentially overwhelm in a fight, as we see more spearmen being queued up. Now adding some scouts as well, after losing a couple, according to the destroyed value there. Some did go down here for Lucifron. There is a slowdown on the horseman, however.
Yeah, I mean, this is just so insane how quickly you're able to pivot into a Castle Age transition now from this point on as the Chinese. Just thanks to all of the
Wow.
deer inside of your base, this fast gathering. It felt like Lucifron was going to commit to the feudal age and then slow down for just like half a minute. Suddenly has enough resources to age up now with the Imperial Palace. 13 villagers rushing that one up. But CSO, he's got a lot of knights on the field. Army value, he's got 50% additional army value on top of what Lucifron has up at the moment. And now with the age up coming in, there's some alarm bells ringing for CSO. So he knows, okay, maybe this is now the point in time where I can make something happen. But veterancy is on its way for the Spearman from Lucifron. And once you get that veterancy upgrade on your Spearman, they start to really, really bite into those knights whenever they start to connect.
It gets really scary, right? Especially for CSO if he plays on the aggression here towards Lucifron's base. Not only would there be more units in Lucifron's base, but those veteran spearmen, if you look away for a second and don't pay attention to your knights, so many can go down if they get pinched, thanks to their larger model as well. Scout on the way back here for CSO does get spotted by the horseman, but knights will answer in turn. And we're talking about Lucifron's knight micro and his historically being one of the best knight players in Age of Empires 4 history. CSO, however, as I'm sure you'd agree, has been looking to take away that title for a little while now.
Yeah, especially like CSO and Louis, they're known to like be very, very strong with these like early knight civilizations, just always being on the cusp of that edge of just overcommitting to knights, but having just the right amount of knights in any one position in the game to even take on like the direct counters to their units. So it's kind of crazy sometimes when you see a big ball of knights even like charging headfirst into a mass of spearmen and coming out on top.
Yeah, you have to be so careful with those spearmen, don't you? I mean, at the end of the day, they are the counter to those royal knights and horsemen, of course, but they lack the mobility, Crackedy, don't they? So if you are out of position with them, 2, 3 groups of split spearmen, and those knights do use their mobility to their advantage, suddenly half of your numbers can be shaved without killing any knight in turn, as CSO is looking to put on a little bit of pressure here, doesn't want to overcommit, right? It's very dangerous to go deep into that base. The mill is really well positioned from Lucifron as well, where pretty much the entirety of his food gathering is, behind that TC cozy next to the Imperial Academy. Lucifron just sticks to this composition, more and more horsemen being added. We don't see the Lancer priority as we sometimes do, as well as the Spearmen being prioritized as well for him. And he's just looking to blob as many of these trash units as possible.
This feels so dangerous, though, because Lucifron, sure, he's got 11 veteran horsemen, but CSO, he's on almost 20 knights at the moment, and knights still have way superior stats compared to Castle Age horsemen. Now, the archers, they're kind of just like face tanking here. The spearmen don't do any bonus damage up against the archers, so CSO, he's actually kind of fine like using the archers as a sort of meat shield here. But at the moment, Lucifron, he's still looking to be coming out ahead at the moment. The Castle Age upgrades might just about be enough here in order to win in the game. I want to say that, but the fight suddenly takes a sharp turn as CSO, the knight count. There's so many weak knights, and he will be able to heal all of them back up again after taking a great trade here up against the units from Lucifron.
Yeah, the vast majority of CSO's archers did go down in that engagement, but just like you mentioned, it's the food situation, isn't it? Lucifron's composition is so food heavy compared to CSO's in terms of archers, at least. So although a lot of archers did go down, so many horsemen and spearmen went down for Lucifron, and although there's close to 2,000 food a minute for him, how long would that last, really, with all these units going down? We do see it change into crossbowmen now for him, so notable thing is that the spearman horseman composition, although it can be very scary in a blob, it does not scale that well, across fights that are back and forth in the map like that. If CSO is effective with his kiting, ultimately, your mobility can work against you and your lack of range with Lucifron's composition. So respect being put as he adds crossbowman, but CSO looking for an in here. Almost gets a charge in on the berries, but Lucifron is quick to react and pulls away just in time with the spearman there to defend.
It looked for a second like CSO might be pulling the trigger on his own age up here, but decides to reinvest. We're once again up to 70 knights, 4 more in the queue at the moment for CSO. But this is where I really like Lucifron actually now switching up into this mass of crossbows, because crossbows, when you're an age ahead and you're dealing with feudal age archers, Castle Age crossbows actually scale very well up against these feudal age archers as well, but you also have the benefit that they also deal very nicely with those knights. So it's like a two-in-one counter, sort of. As long as these archers aren't castle age, your crossbows actually just tremendously outscale the feudal age archers, and the knights, they go down incredibly quickly. Lucifron might just want to wait until he's getting up to like 10 crossbows, and at that point in time, these knights, they will go down very rapidly. But now CSO, he has got the resources for the age up, and we will see the Royal Institute coming in here for him. Give it 2 minutes for Royal Bloodlines to come in as well, and suddenly these 20 knights will be absolute murder machines.
And CSO smells blood, doesn't he? He recognized that good engagement that he took earlier, and Royal Institute is normally a clear signal that once that Bloodlines is in, along with the veterancy on the archers and the knights, he is going to go for the kill move. There is no scaling to be had from the Royal Institute as opposed to the Guildhall. So in this situation, CSO is making it clear that he wants to finish this game ASAP once those technologies are in for him. However, Lucifron, the crossbow numbers are building. Horsemen and spearmen still being added, and by the time that Royal Institute really comes in with the Royal Bloodlines for the Knights, I fear that Lucifron may have the answers necessary to completely offset the Knight mass from CSO here, which, although large, has started to slow down now as the food is plummeting for him.
CSO, he still has a lot of deer underneath this TC. He definitely got the lion's share at the end of the day from all of those deer out on the map with the pro scouting. Lucifron, he is very, but oh my god. Baltune would say, okay, these are like Crackedy villagers here at the moment. I do this mistake, I want to say a bunch of times, where I just pull way too many villagers to the same spot on the map to gather resources, because if there's a raid here, this is going to be more than the majority of Lucifron's economy idled out completely, and this can be incredibly dangerous. CSO, though, it doesn't look like he's really scouted this part. He was just trying to look for villagers potentially moving out on the map for like a boar play or like the outer berries here. We do have this large mass now of knights. The large mass of knights here from CSO is still just looming around the base from Lucifron. It makes it so dangerous for him to leave his base at the moment. He will try to do something with those horsemen, though.
Especially on this map, right? The small wood lines as well as the open nature means that even walling is way more expensive than it would be on a regular map. So you have to be so careful as the infantry player in this case with Lucifron. But the horsemen will find some value here as the gold mine from CSO. All of the gold mining villages are in one spot. Just like you mentioned earlier, Crackedy, for Lucifron, the same case is here for CSO. Several of them do go down, foregoing garrisoning in the outpost entirely due to the fear of it being burned down and even more going down. But Lucifron just keeps on diving. Undermesh is in, not level 2, but still enough to offset a lot of this arrow fire thanks to that ranged armor. And CSO, so many idle villages now.
Yeah, that is a lot of idle time, definitely hurting his economy. Royal Bloodlines is almost complete, though, for CSO, and he might just want to wait until that comes in and before he tries and take a decisive fight here. Lucifron feels like he's completely forgone any sort of scaling. He is not in Song Dynasty, yet he has made a farm transition, so we're not going to be seeing any granaries from him here anytime soon. Also means that he's not able to keep up with the 1TC villager production of his opponent, though he did get a good couple of raids, and so at least that helps him offset the economy scaling by a little bit. But I would still love to see Song Dynasty come in here at some point for him, just to get a granary or two out. It is a 20% increase around the granary. Like, if you just put two next to each other on those farms nearby, that is significant. It's like getting horticulture times 2.
Absolutely, it's so significant, combined with the Barbican, not only giving a huge amount of vision as well to help against these looming night raids from CSO, but of course it's a very capable defensive landmark as well. Not quite a keep, but way more than an outpost, right? So it will be very useful on the defense here for Lucifron. He's just trying to muster up the resources. I'm sure he has it on his mind, but it's always scary, right? You want to add so many units as well here as Lucifron, because the threat of those Royal Bloodlines Knights is so present. 25 now on the field for CSO. Stone gathering going on for him as well. I'm quite curious whether that is the plan for a keep, a town center, or indeed even both potentially for him, as clash might be happening here in the middle.
Lucifron.
Yeah, they're not really there.
Archers.
Veterans only now coming in. It's so far out still.
Oh, this could be very, very dangerous. A lot of archers unupgraded here. The knights are trying to charge in, but there's a big mass of spearmen. Too many for these archers to take down, and the crossbows, they're just trying to, like, close the gap here. Now, this many crossbows, they are going to be able to almost one-shot the knights. If it wasn't for Royal Bloodlines, these knights would be getting one-shot here. CSO, though, he is taking the engagement. His army value is still higher than what Lucifron has here at the moment. Destruction value is looking good for Lucifron, though, but the spearmen, they're just getting evaporated. How can this be? These knights, so tanky, so efficient, yet still, a lot of them did go down here without the veterancy upgrades on the archers. This is still a trade that Lucifron can be happy with because the Death Ball has now been thwarted.
Absolutely. I mean, this is about the best fight that Lucifron could possibly hope for. Huge upgrade advantage for him in this fight. There is no undermesh at all for CSO Crackedy. I just realized, not even level 1 undermesh for CSO on top of the veterancy for the archers that was also missing in this fight, partly due to that idle time on the gold mine that Lucifron caused so elegantly. Now CSO really on the back foot.
This is just the same point in time now where the deer finally fully run out for CSO. 10 villagers behind, which honestly is a little bit surprising 20 minutes into the game without Song Dynasty for the Chinese. Even with the additional Imperial officials, I would have expected French to have a couple more villagers here. Could be that there was a little bit of idle time in between. He did make a lot of knights, and we also do have that keep inside the base of CSO, so that might be a rally point where he can fall back to. And now he does have the option of getting very, very cheap units in, but all the relics that he collected so far are now in danger as Lucifron found the monastery and is starting to burn it down.
The keep will really be a good respite here for CSO, not only on the defense, but also the discount for his units. Very notable discount there around all production buildings, as long as they're an archery range or stable around that keep for him. And CSO recognizes that his knight mass has been dwindled so severely, and there's just not enough economy anymore to keep massing these knights to the extent that he would like. Now instead opting to switch into horsemen, a much lighter gold unit, a much lighter composition in terms of gold. No, not spending whatsoever on it. And in turn, he finds himself banking a lot of it in turn as...
Yeah, I think he's trying to Imperial Age here. I think he wants to get Imperial Age for the Red Palace emplacements just to be safe, but the Knights, they're getting caught out by some crossbows here.
Yeah, the few knights that CSO had left look for a raid, but they are met in turn by Lucifron's crossbows as well as the horsemen. And again, so much idle time here for behind this. Lucifron finds great value with just a handful of horsemen behind this. As CSO is quick to respond, not many villages go down, but still 14 kills so far. Now we see that Barbican of the Sun for that Song Dynasty going up. And already with a notable villager lead, Lucifron 10 now for him. This will only be expedited further by the Song Dynasty. CSO, however, does manage to sneak in the knights towards that granary farmland for Lucifron here.
Yeah, and I think he is still playing with the idea of the potential Imperial Age play. Once CSO gets that Red Palace out on the map, he will be able to delay the game for a good while here because it's just so difficult to dive a Red Palace. When the villagers are inside, you need trebuchets. Without trebuchets, you are not going to be able to get past that Red Palace, or you need like at least 5 bombards or something like that. It is absolutely crazy, just the amount of DPS coming out from a Red Palace with full garrison. That is something that you really have to take into account here. And CSO, he's just trying to delay at the moment, just going for these little raids and making sure that Lucifron cannot leave his base.
Yeah, this is the power of mobility in Age of Empires 4, and especially on a map like this, right? Although he was definitely on the back foot, and to an extent still is in this game, right? Taking the damage from those Lucifron raids with the horsemen, the engagement not really going his way as well, not having undermesh in that critical mid-map fight there. But thanks to his horsemen, thanks to his knights, he's able to buy himself so much space and time here, along with that keep as well, to just keep Lucifron's main army composition pinned in his base as he completes this farm transition and allow himself the room to breathe and start potentially his own farm transition behind this. We do see now I think enlistment incentives, it is called, coming in from the Royal Institute as well, which will further expedite the discount on the units from the stables and archeries around that keep, an additional 5%. So all of this really adds up, right? Because CSO, although the French economy might not be as strong as the Chinese economy due to lack of those imperial officials, those discounts really do pay fruit in the long run.
Exactly, and not just that. This is an insane amount of horsemen that CSO has here at the moment, and these are still horsemen with Imperial Age royal bloodlines in at the moment, so they have a ton of health. They are the perfect meat shield here in the army for CSO. And still, with this many archers, Lucifron, who is now on mass spearmen, mass crossbows, might find himself in a situation where his entire army just gets counted out, and we do have some successful horseman raids here at the moment from both sides, but CSO arguably just finding a lot more value at the end of the day here.
Yeah, as these production buildings underneath the influence of the Imperial Academy are starting to be torched down, and they generate a lot of tax here for Lucifron, so they're definitely more valuable than any other production buildings for him. CSO looking to attack from multiple sides here with that raid in the north as well as approaching from the south. And this use of mobility is so crucial in these situations, as although Lucifron's composition may potentially be somewhat stronger in a direct engagement, although as I say that the archer numbers are really significant for CSO as well, the lack of mobility is crucial, and using that to his advantage, CSO is really going to help him.
More and more blacksmith upgrades now also coming in for CSO, so he is finally getting in that undermesh level 2 here, and we do have potentially another fight coming in, but Lucifron, I'm not sure if he really wants to take that fight. There is this large backline now from CSO with so many archers here, and while Lucifron does have a very good army blob, the army value is firmly in favor of CSO at the moment. We do have to dive through onto the villagers in the woodline. Archers are also fighting here, taking a lot of them down there. See, Lucifron now, he has to fight this, but it's so difficult because the archers, they're just taking down so many of these spearmen here. And once the spearmen are gone, these horsemen can just take the fight up against any unit that they want.
Exactly. However, Lucifron is now starting to add in those lances for him, which will definitely be very effective in this fight, as there are only archers and horsemen on the field on the front line here for CSO. Arbaletria are now being added for him as well, but they will be a while before they make their way across the field. And the horseman surround is pretty good from CSO, but there's so many spears and so many crossbows here for Lucifron. He's able to power through this fight. A lot of losses either side, but with the farm transition pretty much fully complete for Lucifron behind this. Close to 2,000 food income for him now as well. Combined with the taxation, his economy is going to be able to carry through in this situation.
Yeah, Lucifron did an amazing job at keeping the spearmen alive, pulling them back onto the sides, and being able to just react to all of these different horseman attacks, like the complete horsemen surround, and Lucifron able to have spearmen on all of the sides there, keeping the crossbows alive, and now the army value is in the lead for Lucifron, and destruction value similarly so. Villagers trying to block those horsemen from getting into the economy, but we do have a couple of horsemen making their way through, and now Lucifron once again has to pull a lot of these spearmen back, trying to chase down all of these horsemen, and they're just so quick here at the moment, Myriad. Like, this is just a big cat and mouse game now at the end of the day. And I like these little granaries, you know? It's not like the main drop-off point for a lot of these villagers, but there are a lot of them, and they're just spread out trying to buff up all of these farms. So Lucifron still, at the end of the day, he's got a very efficient farming operation, I want to say, at the moment.
It reminds me a lot of the old school Aachen Chapel before it was a drop-off, right? You would just have it for the influence and then add mills in order to drop off from the farms around it as well. That's what the granaries are at this moment, as remassing from both sides, but you can see the difference in income really starting to show itself here. CSO, so much slower to remass his composition, despite that influence from the keeps discounting his units so much, combined with the enlistment incentives upgrade. And Lucifron, 14 lancers, 11 more in queue, in combination with those spearmen and the crossbowmen. This is such a powerful composition for him, and as long as he can set up camp towards the center of the map on these contested large gold veins, maybe get some trebuchets out as well, he can really start to put on the hurt on CSO's base.
Yeah, now CSO, he is falling back to the keep. He still has his 3 relics under control, and he's got a lot of resources in the bank. We could still see the age up play for the Imperial Age. The issue is that Lucifron, he's now firmly cemented himself in a position next to that large gold vein, where ideally CSO would want to position a Red Palace, and yeah, now that's going to be very tough to get up for him.
Exactly, those center gold veins on this map are so crucial in this mid to late game portion of the match. And you know, on other maps, the large gold veins are often more spread out, and you can kind of sneak a red palace somewhere if you distract your opponent enough and not pay attention. But look how close the two large gold veins are together, and especially with the vision from Lucifron's Imperial Palace, the spy ability. CsOH would be so hard pressed to try to sneak one anywhere in to a fruitful position on the map, as Lucifron diving directly under the keep, he just doesn't care anymore. So many Lancers now. Decent number of Arbaletria from CSO, but there's just not enough. The mass is severely in Lucifron's favor, as he is determined to finish the game right now in its late infancy at this point, as CSO making a desperate defense mid-farm transition as well. Not all of the farms going up, but so many idle at this point in time. Lucifron just directly camping underneath that keep as he wants to kick CSO out of the game entirely and secure himself game number 1.
And he does manage to do so. GG comes in. Lucifron wins game number 1 here. And I gotta say, this was such a nail-biter all throughout the... Like, there were so many fights that I felt like were going in CSO's favor, even though he was getting countered out in the military. But exceptional positioning from Lucifron with his Spearman in these fights allow him to win the game and ultimately just take the game number 1 here, thanks to the scaling economy from China throughout it and all. And yeah, just very, very beautifully played here in game number 1. I can't wait to see what's coming up in the next one as well.
I know, it's a very explosive start, isn't it? And I gotta say, that was just textbook execution there from Lucifron. That's exactly the kind of gameplay you would expect from China up against French in this situation, right? So methodical with those horsemen and the spearmen initially, getting that castle age in once you take a decent little engagement, and then allowing the economy to propel forward as you make that granary transition. And, you know, French, although they are very good in that scaling game themselves, China are the old kings, aren't they, when it comes to that late game? And if you don't do enough damage, as the French in this situation you saw, the economy just simply runs away.
Yeah, and it looks like we do now have our backend up and running once again, and we can see the draft between these two players. And I got some alarm bells ringing at the moment, Myriad, because we are going to be seeing Knights Templar on a hybrid map in game number 2 up against the Japanese here from Lucifron. And Knights Templar, whenever you see them come in on a hybrid map, I kind of like fall back. I cringe a little bit, and I'm like, that's gotta hurt. Man. Not banning Knights Templar, rookie mistake.
It really has to hurt here for Lucifron needing to go up against this. I know, I've done this myself, right? Like, if you end up losing that first game and you have Knights Templar with a water map in the bag, you just pick it in great comfort, knowing that that's usually just almost a free win for you as a Knights Templar player. Just the economy on water, notably the food drop-off. 20% of wood is also gathered as food. It makes all these transitions undeniably smooth for Knights Templar in this situation. However, not all hope is lost here for Lucifron, as notably with Knights Templar, the situations on water where they shine the most is when you can fully utilize that wood-food hybrid economy in those water fights to offset the other economic disadvantages you have on land, which on 4 lakes, although there can be some dock drop shenanigans, especially with Japanese in play and those shinobi, normally there's not as much on a map compared to a map like Holy Island, like Kawasan, right? So I feel like out of all hybrid maps in the game, Japanese, here they might have the best chance.
Yeah, I'm definitely bound to agree there, just having the ability to boom up on these pawns. But it seems like our game number 2 is ready, so we will dive right in. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going in to game number 2 between Lucifron and CSO.
We are on 4 lakes here in game number 2 between Team Elephant's CSO in the color pink as the Knights Templar spawning in the north side of the map, facing a veteran of Age of Empires 4 who already secured himself a lead in this series in game number 1. It is Lucifron in the color green as the Japanese. And I gotta say, Lucifron on Japanese here on 4 lakes, I mean, we often see Lucifron prioritizing the water maps in the drafts. Although it was CSO's pick here after losing game 1, and he does have the Knights Templar, these are the kind of maps and situations where Lucifron historically feels very comfortable.
Yeah, Lucifron with the Japanese in general, like the Japanese with their knight play, they definitely do synergize with the skill set, I want to say here, of the Spanish brothers and CSO. CSO with the Knights Templar. It's one of those situations as well where I will believe that we will most likely see a lot of Chevalier Confrere from CSO with the French allies, the Frank allies. That the Knights Templar do have access to, so they're able to pump out very, very cheaply produced armored units in Feudal Age. This front, I think, ideally, his game plan would be to just skip Feudal Age for the most part in its entirety.
Absolutely, absolutely right. I mean, although Japanese, especially nowadays, can really put up a fight in that Feudal Age up against a lot of civilizations that they couldn't before. On a water map like this, with those Chevalier Confrere coming from the Knights Templar, which is very likely for CSO in this position, especially being such a prolific Knight player by now. See, Lucifron definitely wants to get out of the Feudal Age ASAP once he gets to it and just go straight for the Castle Age, where he has so many advantages going for him, notably those mounted samurai as well as the Onimusha. Such a powerful mobile composition for the Japanese, which, fueled by a deep sea fish water economy, can really allow him to get those numbers up incredibly high and oppressively. Whereas for CSO, I'm curious to what extent we will see a feudal commitment from him. I mean, is he just going to try to pretty much kill Lucifron outright with an immense mass of Confrere? However, I think that might be difficult, although Lucifron does have a very forward gold.
Yeah, he does. Both his golds actually are forward, so he doesn't really have any back gold to fall back onto. Lucifron, I'm also wondering what age up he would want to go up for, whether it would be the Kura Storehouse or the Koka Township. Either getting in some shinobi early on or just having a very, very smooth food transition on land. Additionally, getting a little bit of passive wood income once that Kura Starhouse is completely surrounded by farms. Honestly, I think shinobi in general are just very nice when you're up against a civilization like Knights Templar, not just because you're able to potentially prod a little bit here and there in the economy, but also because you do have a unit that you can immediately use to try and snipe out those pilgrims as they do make their way onto those sacred sites.
Yeah, exactly. A notable thing here is those sacred sites, right? They are all towards the center of the map, so not as defendable as CSO would like, without a doubt, as both players are starting to go towards that Feudal Age. Gold is trickling in quite steadily for both. Most likely there's going to be Shinobi from Lucifron in this position. Very, very standard on a map like this. The Shinobi so powerful on these hybrid dock map situations. You are able to, of course, sabotage enemy docks if you do want to go for that dock drop, which can historically be very difficult against Knights. I mean, Shinobi have incredibly high melee damage and do pack a tremendous punch even up against Knights, and especially those weaker Confrere compared to regular Knights. However, the mobility, as well as it being, if he tries to dock on CSO side of the map, can really be a scary situation.
Yeah, we do see the Kingdom of France now coming in for CSO, Koka Township on the side of Lucifron, so he will have access to those shinobi throughout the Feudal Age, and later on as well, though typically we don't really see much play of the shinobis ever like past Feudal Age. They do get additional upgrades with every single age up after Feudal Age, but honestly, they're still very squishy throughout their entire life cycle in both Castle, Feudal, and Imperial Age here. So yeah, probably not going to see much use afterwards. And we do actually have a move up from both players here. And the villagers find each other, but Lucifron's villager has a little bit more health here. It looks like CSO's villager has already made contact with the wolf here and there. And now, yeah, he's going to have to back off.
Yeah, this is a bit of an unfortunate situation here for CSO, right? Getting spotted by Lucifron's villager straight away, and as the Shiv is pulled from Lucifron's villager first, as well as the wolf you mentioned taking a little bite from CSO's villager in turn, means that he's going to be forced back. Confrere is on the way, however. Koka Township is only now finishing for Lucifron. But like you mentioned, the Shinobi, although they can be very potent, especially with Knights Templar, their economy is prime to add any archers if they so choose, which is going to make short work of the Shinobi. But CSO, pivoting around the woodline with a secondary villager, now moving again towards Lucifron's pond. However, I think there's a dock up already towards that northern side of the lake.
It is under construction, but yeah, CSO, he is a man with a plan. At the same time, also sending out another villager. Not sure if that guy is just... looks like he's just going to be going back to the gold vein, trying and gather up some gold here in order to get these Chevalier out onto the map. I haven't actually seen the Shinobi out on about yet from Lucifron. Not quite sure what he's up to. Outpost coming up now from both players, trying to secure their gold veins. And here we do have the Shinobi. Just, he's taking a little curve, a little detour, just trying to make it not too obvious the kind of way that he is taking to CSO space now.
Yeah, moving his way up towards that northern pond. Definitely wants to prevent any kind of secondary dock play here from CSO to get even more food income in from those deep sea fish. As Shunshin almost picks up a villager, causes a decent bit of idle time there. Not quite able to pick one up, but idle time is still very valuable, especially at this stage of the game. Lucifron, however, is very content on staying on just one Shinobi, and just like we predicted, we see double tower outpost.
It went up!
Oh, it went up! That's crazy.
Lucifron, he didn't realize the dock from CSO. He did only just notice, and we do immediately see a ship in queue now for him. At the same time, though, it looks like Lucifron also tried to go for a dock on his side from CSO. But I think CSO, this Springle ship, I believe, is actually on his main pond, not on the pond that he just docked.
You are correct.
And when he cancels it?
Yeah. Oh, he cancelled one, and there were two in queue at one point, but he cancels one of them. I think he might have cancelled the one on his home pond, not deeming it. Yeah, that is the case. He cancelled on his home pond, and there's going to be Sprinkled ship on Lucifron's pond now. But yeah, lucky Reggie, Lucifron not spotting this could definitely hurt him here in the near future, as normally you don't really want to... It's not exactly optimal to try to dock drop against Japan, specifically because of those Shinobi. There's normally just no way you can possibly win out on the water there because of the Shinobi sabotage, as well as the presence of the fishing ships already being there. But CSO doesn't care. He goes so far as to try to a secondary dock as well, but it does get spotted by Lucifron as the villager is pushed away by the galley. However,
Demo ship.
The Springle ship, kills the Springle ship.
Oh, that is great value here now for Lucifron. He's able to make CSO fall back at the moment on his own pond. Also force the investment into a Springle ship. Does lose a villager for it, though. But behind this, Lucifron now able to pull the trigger on the A-job, and he's got plenty of resources out on the map to gather from for a night play now.
Yeah, I have to say, this dock investment here from CSO, as well as the unfortunate initial trade with that Springle ship, I feel like might really, really hurt him here shortly, as the floating gate is on the way for Lucifron. You've invested so much in this dock, as well as the Springle ship. Even galley now being added for CSO. I really find this questionable. There's no real way you're ever going to win out on this pond if you are CSO. And meanwhile, his Confrere numbers suffered. He doesn't have undermesh. He's unable to dive those two towers from Lucifron. And he's going to be at a severe age-up deficit.
Yeah, we do have an archer ship here at the moment from CSO. He's trying to dive after the demo ship from Lucifron. It's just giving him the runaround here at the moment, trying to stay alive, trying to stay healthy, because there will soon be another Springle ship coming in for CSO. But by the time it does, that archer ship looks like it's going to be going down. Actually, we do have a Shinobi, the Sabotage. Never mind that Springle ship. It's going to be a while until that one comes out. And now Age-Up hits Lucifron, immediately queuing up that mounted samurai, and should soon be followed up with an Uma Bannerman as well.
Yeah, the Daimyo Mana could be coming in for him shortly. I'm not sure if he has it queued up already, because
yeah. He had it in queue.
He
cancelled it.
There we go.
There it is. Now it's back again. I think maybe he wanted to get another emplacement in first, but now it's coming in, and once he's getting that Uma Bannerman out, really, really, really quick production on that unit. CSO, though, he's prepared. We're seeing Spearmen coming in as well from him.
Yeah, CSO, not wasting any time. He knows what's coming for him and is preparing adequately in this situation. 5 on the field already compared to the 2 mounted samurai here from Lucifron. Still actually investing quite severely into this southern pond here for CSO. Doing decent work. A couple of the fishing ships did go down, I believe. Damage now being dealt as well. Mass repair coming in on the galley here for Lucifron, as the Confrere did manage to torch that safe-most dock towards the right side of the pond, and are now working towards that northern dock as well here on Lucifron's pond. Spearman in position on the gold, although CSO did back off from the gold mine actually, now relying on the pilgrims for that income entirely.
Yeah, he does have all the pilgrim upgrades at the moment, so is getting 2 of them every single minute. That's a good amount of passive gold income for him at the moment, as long as it's not being denied, which at the moment it is not. And CSO, Yeah, I mean, soon he should be able to click up to CsOH, but he does once again reinvest more Spearmen, more Chevalier coming in from him. Question is, how much longer can he realistically fight here in Feudal Age, as the Knights are actually getting almost caught by the Spearmen there in the picture-in-picture.
Yeah, a little play around the stealth forest there for CSO almost pays tremendous fruit. One samurai is left incredibly low, a few others took some hits too, but none do go down, so good reactions from Lucifron to notice that. You can see the mass from CSO, just the economy being so smooth. Not only is he halfway with the resources necessary to go for Castle Age, but has a good number of spearmen and Confer on the field along with one archer as well, so he's pretty safely padded against these initial mounted samurai, at least for now. But now there is a Yumi follow-up from Lucifron.
I love the Yumi play here. Overall, just a really strong army composition. Having these knights and mobile archers means that Lucifron is definitely going to be able to, even in the later stages of the game, be able to set the game pace here, as he will always be able to outrun the spearmen. And yeah, Yumi archers, it is so tough to catch up to them, even with the Chevalier here from CSO. Little Ray trying to come in, but double outpost means that no villagers will be found. Little Wololo coming in as well. CSO does respect it and is going to back off.
Yeah, little idle time caused on the gold mine there for CSO, as the Wololo defensively is going to pay fruit. Meanwhile, raid on the back of CSO's base as well. The mounted samurai finding decent value, but they run directly into Spearman. Notice is just in time, so the skewer does not quite go into full effect there. Lucifron's mounted samurai are going to back off from whence they came. Republic of Genoa, meanwhile, on the way here for CSO, and only 45 seconds for that to come through.
Yeah, and once that comes through, we're getting an additional 30% bonus gold from these pilgrims for CSO. So arguably one of, if not the best passive gold source at the moment for CSO, as long as he's able to keep map presence in the middle of the map, making sure that his pilgrims do manage to connect to those sacred sites. And yeah, at the moment, he's been able to do that for quite a while. That's just what allowed him to get this many Chevalier on the map, even with a little bit of downtime when it came to the gold gatherers.
Yeah, exactly. The Pilgrim income really, really useful for the Knights Templar in this situation, especially once you do get that Sanctuary in and two Pilgrims. I mean, not quite 130 gold each with this distance, but not far off either. Of course, you trade off the extra gold for a shorter route instead, so the income doesn't really suffer that much here for CSO when it comes to that. But the numbers are really, really healthy for him. A lot of Chevalier, a lot of Spearmen, more in queue now as well. But Lucifron's numbers are also building. The Yumi Ashigaru, now veterancy on the way, halfway through, sped up thanks to that Yorishiro as well. Steeled Arrow on the way too for him. Now, once again, significant idle time here for CSO. His upgrades are still coming in, so he's going to have to be very careful with the villagers that are inside that tower. They do make a runner, and looks like they'll get away with their life.
Yeah, Pilgrims, though, will get taken down instead, and now Veterancy is in on these Yumi Archers. And sure, Yumi Archers don't do as much damage as normal Archers, but in turn, the Chevalier also don't have as much armor as the normal Knights, so it's kind of a trade-off here. CSO is now also reinforcing with some Templar Brothers, but that is such a gold-expensive unit here, alongside the Genoese crossbows, and not a lot of mobility with them as well. He did move out to another gold vein, but that could possibly be attacked here. I'm not sure if Lucifron expects there to be villagers, but he does move towards it. He does have a scout with his army as well. CSO very early on pulls away the villagers, but the mining camp is there, so Lucifron is aware that something fishy was going on there at a point in time.
Yeah, exactly. Very brave of CSO to move out onto that gold mine, but luckily is able to react in time once spotting those mounted samurai moving that towards that position. But there's still so much idle time here for CSO. There are a lot of gold miners there. Now the Pilgrims on the way towards that southern side already should get spotted out here by Lucifron. And yeah, he notices they're all both going to die again. For up to 4 Pilgrim kills now, Lucifron. Meanwhile, 3 relics in the bank, a 4th one on the way. The situation is looking pretty rough here for CSO. He is adding, like you mentioned, Templar Brothers, but so expensive. And in combination with the Genoese crossbowman, he's just forced to dance from gold mine to gold mine. He's rushing the stone necessary now for a fortress,
no,
but
he's
it's still
selling
some
it.
while out. Oh, no, he sold it,
He's mining gold in order to sell it, in order to be able to afford more units. That's clever, because stone actually starts off with a higher selling price, so you're able to get more gold out of it, but it's a limited resource, and you do kind of want it in order to get fortresses up on the map, in order to boost up your gold income through pilgrims. And yeah, CSO using it to get gold instead, it's a very temporary solution. And now the knights, they find themselves in a little bit of trouble, as some Yumi archers here will be able to pick off a bunch of these weak chevaliers now.
Yeah, so Lucifron already has Steel Arrow level 2 in, so a lot of damage is being dealt. But now the Clash does come in. A lot of Spearmen, a lot of Chevalier alongside Templar Brothers and Genoese Crossbowmen as well here for CSO. Rounded composition, but I'm not sure the numbers favor him, as Kiting does come in from Lucifron, focusing down those Spearmen, as he should, with the Mounted Samurai body blocking for the Yumi Ashigaru, in order for them to be able to deal the damage that they need to do to thin out these Spearmen numbers. And they are dropping steadily, but so are the Yumi as well. Still a lot of Mounted Samurai left here for Lucifron, and soon enough he's going to be able to recommit into the fight fully. But actually, CSO manages to push through and force Lucifron's mass back. Parade comes in from the southern side of the base.
I mean, sure, Yumi mass did thin out a little bit, but it's such a cheap unit to reinforce, and once those spearmen are gone, it's a lot easier. Lucifron, though, he is still falling back more and more here. It is very difficult for him to micro at the moment on both sides of the map. Is trying to get some raids in while also trying to keep his main army alive. Did have to ultimately sacrifice the main Yumi mass that he had there. Hasn't really caused too much idle time, I want to say. We do have 11 villagers idle at the moment from CSO, and I do believe Lucifron did put one of his Yoroshiro relics inside of his TC in order to further push ahead when it comes to the villager count now as well. Lucifron, for the most part here, has been on only one pond, but he did recently just expand onto the second dock, with the second dock onto the second pond, and is adding in more economy there. Triple archery ranges now coming in. He's doubling down.
Yeah, the game plan is pretty clear from Lucifron, right? He wants to get up to an absolutely critical number of Yumi Ashigaru, which is going to be a prudent choice without a doubt against CSO's composition. Although the Templar Brothers, very, very scary cavalry unit here for the Knights Templar, still against the Mounted Samurai, can be a bit scary because of that deflective armor. Their powerful charge does get somewhat negated, as now Genoese crossbowman numbers are building steadily for CSO as well. They will do tremendous damage against these Mounted Samurai. However, they are less cost effective against heavy mounted cavalry than those regular crossbowmen, because their bonus damage against infantry is null and void up against cavalry, as you would expect. Now getting rushed up again from CSO on this gold mine. He desperately needs this gold mine, especially with this gold expensive composition that he's running. And the Genoese crossbowmen, they do have bonus armor. However, the mobility is really going to hurt them here as the Yumi Ashigaru dive straight past, and the Templar Brothers are holding the line against the Mounted Samurai, but the numbers just aren't enough as they get superseded completely. And now Lucifron diving directly towards what is left of CSO's backline, and his army numbers just aren't there anymore.
Suddenly, all these Genoese crossbows, 100 gold each, go down. Heavy, heavy losses here. Destruction value, 3,000 resource apart, and the villagers, they're still trapped inside of the outpost. CSO, he's falling behind further and further in the situation. He just sold more and more of the stone, pretty much all the remaining stone that he had left in order to get more gold, and tries to remass a couple of units here. The issue as well is Templar Brothers, they do get a nice bonus when you get the upgrade in, where they will do more charge damage, but the charge is exactly what gets absorbed by the deflective armor. Once again, units are coming in, but it's just not enough mass here now at the front side, as Lucifron just relentlessly keeps diving further and further, keeps picking off these units with the Yumi archers on the retreat, just utilizing the mobility to its full extent.
Lucifron's signature aggression is back in full force here in game number 2, as he gives CSO no room. All three of CSO's initial gold mines are like in a perfect arch almost, towards the left, towards the center, and towards the right of his base. All prime targets here for Lucifron in this game, as with 3 relics in already for him. 4th one has been on the way for a very long time now, I feel like. It's probably being held by a Shinto priest somewhere that he did not notice yet at this point in time. But 34 Yumi Ashigaru on the field for him. 8 Mounted Samurai and more in queue now. We see several upgrades now as well. Daimyo Palace is going to be on the way for him as well. And CSO now finding it necessary to switch to veteran horsemen instead, as the Templar Brothers, although they can do great work, the cost is just too much, as Lucifron again coming in with a dive towards the small wood line. The numbers again just are not favoring CSO. When those spearmen die, there's going to be nothing left to hold back these Mounted Samurai, although counterflank comes in from the Templar brothers, connecting onto the Mounted Samurai. With them, the numbers do start favoring CSO on this front line, but most of Lucifron's army is still coming in as reinforcements, as you can see. Just so many units on the field for him.
And these are also just still feudal age horsemen for the Knights Templar here, so not a lot of ranged armor on them, means that even the Yumi archers with the Yumi bannermen there as well are able to do a good job against them. And now the gold mine has been found again, double sprinkled emplacement in queue, but the villagers will still have to evacuate this position. CSO, he needs to defend his gold axis. The units start coming in once again, but there's just such a big mass here at the moment from Lucifron that I feel like CSO, even with 10 Templar brothers here, just does not have what it takes in order to keep this position safe. But the sprinkled placements are about to come in. I'm not sure though if Lucifron's going to fall back once those come in. Sprinkled shots do connect.
Yeah, the Sprinkled emplacements should do good work here up against Lucifron's composition, especially against the Mounted Samurai due to their armor. The Sprinkled emplacements will do good damage. The Brother numbers are looking pretty healthy now, almost even to the Mounted Samurai numbers, but it's worth keeping in mind, although the mass right here isn't full for Lucifron, looking decent for CSO, most of the units are still streaming across the map. It is 19 military population up against Lucifron's 63. Granted, most of them are those cheap Yumi Ashigaru, but still, with the Yumi Bannerman, as well as the upgrades that Lucifron now has in, the damage really starts adding up for them. Fortification comes in on the outpost, so this gold mine is definitely secured, at least for the short while, but for how long really, as the southern sacred site is locked in now for Lucifron. The north one is soon to follow as well, I'm sure. And really, Lucifron, all he needs now is a couple of rams, maybe just a few on Amusha to deal even more significant damage against these Templar brothers, and he can start really denting in the Knights Templar base.
Yeah, once the second sacred site is fully secured, Lucifron, like, there won't even be any more pilgrims spawning in for CSO. The entire passive gold income will be gone. And we see CSO, he's struggling. He's trying to get even more outposts up now on the large gold vein here. Does get found out, though. None of these outposts have been reinforced at the moment, but Lucifron, he is still waiting a little bit, wants to get his army all together, bunched up, and then attack once again. He's just keeping CSO under so much pressure here at the moment. We still don't see a single fortress at the moment for him. But now, rams are coming in. Lucifron, he's had enough. He wants to take down the infrastructure next.
Exactly. The rams will be what breaks the camel's back in this situation, as although the fortification is going to be very useful for those units, and of course the fire armor is huge on those outposts, the rams will do tremendous work in taking down, and CSO doesn't really have the number challenge mass or the rams for that matter, still sticking to these hugely expensive Templar brothers, which although have been doing decent work, the economy is just not there for him. The income difference starting to get quite severely out of control for CSO in this situation, garrisoning the villages into the fortified outposts, but the rams are starting to do work. As long as the rams are protected, these outposts will undoubtedly fall. So many Mounted Samurai and so many Yumi on the field now for CSO. Only 5 Genovese crossbowmen is not going to be enough to turn the tide on the front line there. Villagers desperately jumping out to try to torch the rams that are taking down the outpost, but it's just too much. So many villagers are going to go down here. One already fell. The 5 that were in the outpost are going to fall as well. The worker kills are severely adding up here for Lucifron. 5 more in this outpost, and they're also soon going to be at the end of their life.
And I think we see a little bit of the overcompensation now from CSO. After all of the gold withdrawal, he now overcommitted to gold. 1,500 gold per minute for him, but only 750 food. He just simply doesn't have enough food income here at the moment in order to continually produce these Knights Templar, which do not only cost a lot of gold, but also a lot of food.
Exactly. Lucifron behind this, he could literally just take his foot off the pedal for 30 seconds and he's going to have the economy necessary to even go up to the Imperial Age if he so chooses. One singular Templar brother finds great value there on the mine, as many villagers from Lucifron are idled out, but on the other side, the large gold vein is also idled out. They are desperately trying to torch down the ram here from Lucifron. And Templar brother numbers are still building steadfast here for CSO, but that is kind of all he has as a composition. I mean, Lucifron, it would be so easy for him to just add a few on Amusha if he ever really wants to threaten these numbers, but I think he just doesn't even deem it necessary.
Yeah, but now at the moment, there are just so many villagers trapped inside the outposts here from CSO, and he had to pull the Templar Brothers. They're trying their best at the moment, but still so many mounted samurais here at the front side, so many Yumi archers, almost enough to do pretty much, yeah, they almost able to take half the HP from these Templar Brothers away, which, by the way, do have more health than normal knights, so they are especially tanky, yet these archer units here at the moment are able to just do significant damage to them. More mounted samurai coming in now, together with the Uma Bannerman, able to do that bonus damage, and once again, the slow-moving Genoese crossbows do find themselves at the end of the arrow tips here from Lucifron's archers.
You do really have to question a little bit CSO's decision to stick with these Genoese crossbowmen. Sure, they're a very premium, high damage unit here for him. However, the bonus damage that they have against melee infantry is of course just non-existent. Not against the mounted samurai or the Yumi Ashigaru for that matter. And regular crossbowmen would be so much cheaper and easier to mass for him, but still, he just sticks to his guns. Sure, if you get a critical mass, they're going to be incredibly potent, but critical mass is a distant memory at this point in time for CSO in this game, as, I mean, 11 army population to 80 now for Lucifron, some of which are ships, sure, I mean, 1 galley that is, so 3. Quadruple ram on the way for him. Once this gold mine is under siege here for CSO, there's not much left for him in this game.
Yeah, not much left indeed, and still these pilgrims are getting shot by the archers every now and then. Once again, outposts are coming up. I wonder how many outposts CSO has placed in this game. It's got to be like at least 25 at this point in time, I want to say, and it's just still not enough in order to really keep these villagers safe. I feel like a fortress might have been able to do the job better at the end of the day, but it's so difficult. We did see these kind of like team game strategies coming in here from CSO, selling stone just in order to get that little bit of gold that he needed to continuously produce knights, but it's just not enough. Lucifron, with the superior economy, with the Japanese, with the superior knight unit at the end of the day, is able to take this game. I feel like there is not much steam left inside of the engine from CSO here, as he's now 66 economy to 115 from Lucifron. 200 out of 200 population, banking up almost 3,000 gold behind all of this, and just looking to end the game here.
Yes, when you're behind in economy and in army is normally a 10 to be in for, and CSO, there's just not much left anymore, as GG is called. Lucifron takes the game number 2 here on what was CSO's map pick after losing game number 1, and for CSO, losing with Knights Templar here, that really has to sting.
Yeah, it really, really does. And well played by both players here. CSO did a great job of just sticking into this game for a long, long time. Longer than I personally would have expected. Just doing an absolutely amazing job of continuously being able to produce units, and we do see the resources gathered here. Knights Templar are really showing just why they are so strong on these hybrid maps. Even with all the pressure that Lucifron put up, CSO did have more resources gathered overall, but the engagements from Lucifron, the amount of pressure that he was able to force was just too much here in this one for CSO, and it all kind of started compiling after another, and in the end, Lucifron able to take game number 2 as well, putting him on match point now in the upper bracket finals in our second and last qualifier. All right, and now we are through roughly the half of this first set of today, so it is time for us to start with our first giveaway of the day. We are going to be giving away, drumroll please, it is a mousepad. Look at that beautiful RGB mousepad that we've got here. Very, very nice colors on that, and you can decide which colors it is going to display. So the message that you have to enter in order to take part in our giveaway is !Prism for your Prism RGB mousepad. So put an !Prism in the chat if you want to take part in our giveaway. Once this set is over, we are going to reveal the winner of who wins this Prism mousepad. But that is not the only thing that we're giving away today. You can already see that we are going to be giving away plenty of gear today. We are going to be giving away some of our exclusive Glorange earbuds, so very excited for those, as well as some peripheral gear, a headset, and a mouse. So definitely stay tuned for that.
Indeed, premium gear here on offer in the giveaway, so make sure you do go for that exclamation mark prism for your chances to get some of that sweet gear up in the bag for you and propel your game even forward as a result of it. However, it does seem like we already have the draft for map number 3. Once again, it is CsO's pick as the loser so far in this series. Whoever loses the game does get to determine the next map to be played, and that was the case last time around. Crackedy, CsO did opt for the 4 lakes and to whip out his Knights Templar, which, I mean, is just an incredibly potent pick on hybrid maps. Japanese not far behind either. However, it wasn't enough to pull him through in a very tough game there for him, but still he fought so hard and almost managed to claw it back. Now, however, another one of CsO's prime favored picks is going to be the House of Lancaster up against Lucifron's Delhi Sultanate on Relic River.
And the Delhi, they're definitely one of those civilizations that the Spanish brothers do favor. Very strong with them when it comes to locking down those sacred sites. And I do believe that we're all ready to go into our game number 3. Potential match point here now for Lucifron. So CsO has got to give it his all if he doesn't want to take an honor round through the loser bracket. So we're going to be jumping right into it. Game number 3, Lucifron versus CsO. Let's go.
We're on Relic River for game number 3 between Lucifron and CsO. Lucifron spawning as the Delhi Sultanate in the color green towards the eastern side of the map. And his opponent none other than Team Elephant's CsO in the color teal, playing the House of Lancaster. A very scary pick here from CsO in game number 3. A pick that he has found tremendous success with so far in the qualifiers, and is now looking to save him from the rut of being 2 games down and facing match point up against Lucifron. Worth noting, however, that even if CsO does lose this game, he is eliminated from the upper bracket. However, he has a secondary chance in that lower bracket, so not all hope will be lost. Whereas for Lucifron, he's going to secure himself in the qualifying match, which will be determined later, his opponent from the lower bracket. As standard scouting route so far for both players. Relic River, a very interesting map, Crackedy. We do have a decent number of shoreline fish towards that southern part of the river, which, I mean, compared to something like Himeyama, right? Many comparisons are drawn because of this reason. There are more here, although they are way more spread out. But notably on this map is just the sheer presence of gold and stone.
Yeah, there is a lot of gold and stone in the middle parts alongside that river, so a lot of premium resource that players are going to want to go for. I'm looking at the scouts at the moment. It looks like Lucifron has been getting a little bit unlucky when it comes to the sheep here early on, as CsO is kind of like out-scouting him at the moment, even picking up the sheep right in front of his base. So CsO, he's looking very good when it comes to the sheep count here at the moment, at this stage of the game. And interestingly enough, neither of the players so far went for the, I want to say, like, small amount of fish there at the bottom. It's not actually that small. It's roughly like 6,000, not 6,000, like 4,000 food worth of shoreline fish there at the bottom. So definitely a very good food source. But yeah, CsO, he's just pulling ahead by a mile when it comes to the sheep count at this stage of the game. Though Lucifron finally looks like his luck is about to turn, as he did finally manage to pick off 3 additional sheep here. Not that Delhi really require that much sheep, but you do want to take them away from House of Lancaster, as their villagers do gather a lot faster from sheep compared to other civilizations.
Exactly, the only civilization in the game with extra gathering rate from those sheep. Very useful bonus for the House of Lancaster here. And although normally Delhi doesn't, mind too much being slightly behind in sheep, there is a notable little interaction in this matchup here where Delhi, although they have that early game prowess historically against many civilizations, Lancaster included here, the manners at the end of the day from the House of Lancaster, there will come a point where the food on the map will be exhausted for Lucifron if he's not able to kill CsO beforehand, of course. And once that food is depleted and he has to make a painful farm transition, CsO will have the manners to tide him over in that case, and the game can get very scary. So definitely Lucifron will want as many sheep as he can get in that situation. Notably, however, CsO He's going to play a slightly defensive game somewhat, as, you know, is pretty standard by now for House of Lancaster, opting for the Lancaster Castle to Lucifron's Dome of the Faith, and Stone Gathering is already heavily way here for CSO. The only question left really is, how many manas are we going to see?
Usually, we are currently in a meta where players don't go for 9 manners immediately. 3 manners feels like a little bit too few. 6 manners is like, I want to say, the ideal mixture of just going greedy enough and also just making full use of the manners early on. Because the first upgrade for manners, it's reasonably cheap. You can reasonably afford that one. The second upgrade for manners, it becomes a lot more expensive. So typically that's the one that we'll only see later on in later stages of the game. CSO, though, he's going to have to be a little bit careful here as his stone is nowhere near his defensive landmark. So potentially, if Lucifron wants to go for some aggression early on here, he is going to have a prime target to harass.
Exactly. His initial small wood line that is closer to the TC than the large one is also adjacent to that stone gathering from CSO. So an outpost would definitely be a good job on the defensive there for him against what is likely to be a Ghazi Raider opening here from Lucifron, which is very, very standard here for the Delhi. And yeah, that is the unit of choice, able to solidify his initial map control as well as put on some early harassment onto the House of Lancaster. Although they do have very strong defensive, don't they? Namely, the short bows that they inherit from the English parent civilization in combination with the manners shooting arrows in combination with the House of Lancaster under that influence. But as we mentioned, that is not the case around the stone mine or the wood line.
Looks like CSO did pull away, though, from that stone mine, so isn't going to be going for these additional manners now. He's going to stop at 3 at the beginning here. Lucifron already sending out at least the first scholar. I'm a little bit surprised that he's sending out a scholar now. Typically, the timing for the sacred sites is about a minute off at the moment, as we do see a Sanctity only about halfway complete now. Third manor is coming up for CSO, and there's a lot of villagers on gold, and this makes me believe that maybe we're seeing a 3-manor fast castle age here at this point in the game. And yeah, I mean, no production buildings at all yet from CSO. So Lucifron, he should be able to get full control over 3 sacred sites at the beginning of the game here.
And that is always a very scary thing to allow Delhi to do. Sure, some civilizations have really, really powerful castle timings and bonuses from that castle timing. As we can see exactly the reason for Scholar being pulled, as Lucifron's determined to get a bit of idle time on that gold vein, or sniffing out CSO's plan, I'm sure, seeing only 300 stone gathered from that stone mine for those initial 3 manas. And CSO, I mean, I'm sure you know by now, Crackedy, there's a certain build floating around with Lancaster which revolves around a certain lightly colored tower and an Earl's Guard.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like being able to not only get a keep up, but you immediately follow it up with 3 free Earl's Guard as well. The White Tower, definitely one of the, if not the strongest defensive landmark in the game here in Castle Age for any civilization. And we do see White Tower now being placed inside of the base from CSO. Lucifron, he's got a good amount of Ghazi Raiders, and CSO doesn't actually have most of the villagers next to his TC, so he wouldn't be able to respond immediately with a garrison. So I do believe maybe Lucifron might go for 1 or 2 little like small feint dives here with the Ghazi Raiders. There we go, feint dive number 1, villagers jumping inside the TC, idle time caused here, more villagers getting pulled now, 24 trying to finish up that White Tower, weak Ghazi Raiders being kept at the back, and once again, idle time being caused behind that. We do have sacred sites being captured up. So all 3 sacred sites will be captured up. Number 1 coming in right now. Number 2 around the corner as well. Lucifron can also go for his own age up here shortly, with just getting like 400 gold per minute here in a little bit.
And this is pretty significant idle time here for CSO, right? He even pulled pretty much all the rest of his villages as well to get that tower up ASAP. 1 Ghazi does go down, but the Scholar is certainly getting so much value with that healing. Soon Undermesh is going to be in for Lucifron as well, so he could theoretically keep diving around that Lancaster castle as long as he stays out of range of that White Tower, which will do a lot more damage to him, of course. 3 Earl's Guard that CSO gains for free upon completion of that White Tower are now on the... It's going to be Knights as well in queue for him, which will of course do great work up against these Gazis in combination with the Osgard. Lucifron, question now is what level of further investment are we going to see in this feudal age? If he does want to keep holding these sacred sites, he will need to keep producing Ghazi Raiders, and that does seem to be the plan, at least for the short term here, as another one is in queue, which will take him up to 10 in this instance. And CSO is just going to make a lot of armored units in this case, as Dive comes in, more idle time on the gold.
Yeah, but does lose a Ghazi Raider for it, though. It doesn't quite feel worth it at the moment. That wasn't that much idle time cost there. So Lucifron, he's going to have to be careful. It's a very, very thin line between being overly aggressive in the feudal age here and finding the right timing to age up. He is getting in a lot of scholars. That is going to be very important. The second his age up is going to complete, he will want to be in a position where he can start picking up every single relic on the map. And on Relic River, they are all in the middle for the most part. So that is definitely something that CSO will want to avoid having happen here. We do have the Earl's Guard going to the top sacred site at the moment, where there are also the majority of the relics. Well, not the majority, but there are two close relics nearby. That could be a goal for CSO to be like the prime area that he wants to defend from Lucifron's Castle Age, which is coming in shortly. Just a little bit more food needed for that.
Scouts are being added now for Lucifron as well, right? The Pro Scout technology has finished. He did prioritize it over the culture instead, so that came in nice and quick for him, and he's going to be able to gather up those deer and bring them home. Those three Osgard are separated from the Knights. CSO did not spot the Ghazi mass moving towards that northern sacred side, and Lucifron arrives just in time to prevent the decap, and all of these Osgard are going to go down.
The +2 bonus damage up against heavy units, and also +3 bonus damage compared to just normal horsemen here for these Ghazi Raiders means that they were able to pick off these Castle Age premium units very, very easily here. We now also see CSO moving back out to stone. He's upgrading his manners now to be able to put 3 more on the field. Knights are starting to cause a little bit of harassment. CSO also starting to pick off some of the relics here, but Castle Age just around the corner now for Lucifron. Should be starting to move out some of his own scholars once again to start picking off some of the relics. And indeed, we do see scholars out on the move on the map, trying to absorb the remaining 4 relics of the map as soon as possible.
I do wonder, with Lancers now in the queue for Lucifron, we're likely going to see Hone Blades for that Killji in for Lucifron as well. Yep, that is the first choice from the House of Learning. How much damage is it actually? Is it +2 or +4?
+3.
Because I do wonder. +3, right. So it will be actually still relatively weaker compared to those... Oh, actually, no, because it is White Tower, right?
We don't have the King's College.
There will be no King's College, so there will be no Collar of Essis here for CSO. So theoretically, Lucifron can keep massing Lancers up against these Knights from CSO and win out in the long run. They will be better thanks to an additional +3 damage for him. And with the day on the way home for him as well, which CSO can't really contest effectively. Although, as I say that, raid does come in, and Lucifron slow to react. The villagers, plenty of them are going to go down. 1 down already. Second one may also... Not quite. No target fires. Only 1 goes down.
Yeah, Textiles also research for free here by the Delhi is able to keep a lot of these villagers alive. Looks like the 2 relics are trying to make it back. There were some knights there from CSO, but did miss those scholars, fortunately, here for Lucifron. CSO just continuously producing more and more of these scholars. And yeah, I mean, Lucifron trying his best to also get more of these relics in, because sure, sacred sites can be contested, but once a relic is inside of your base, it is very difficult for your opponent to get control back over those. And man, it is so close. But yeah, it looks like Lucifron is going to be able to bring those relics back. And the scholar mass is rising behind this. And with more and more scholars, the upgrades from Lucifron are going to be coming in quicker and quicker, to a point where they will be coming in quicker and for free than the upgrades from other civilizations.
Yeah, and ultimately, the longer it goes, so much value is going to be gained by the Delhi, thanks to those free upgrades coming in so fast as the scholar numbers build. Now 13 in for Lucifron, in that monastery, in that dome of the faith for him. 3 relics in behind this as well. Looks like Stone Gathering is in the plan for Lucifron as well. And the raid comes in again on the berries here. 2 extra villages go down, and behind this as well on the woodline, another villager, and potentially a 3rd will go down as well, but not quite. The Lancers are there to meet the Knights and push them away. CSO, although he could have had a bigger mass than he has by now, he did instead opt to go for that secondary mana upgrade, and is now opting for the additional mana upgrade open field systems to get up to 9 manas to really propel his economy forward.
Yeah, behind this though, I mean, sure, CSO, he's got manners, Lucifron, he lost villagers, but at the end of the day, you can never underestimate the value of free upgrades, as Lucifron with CsOH is getting roughly 10,000 resources worth of upgrades for free here. And some upgrades, of course, are more impactful than others, but it's going to be on a whole nother level once Imperial Age comes in. Not saying that we will be seeing Imperial Age anytime soon, as both players are just heavily investing into those knights at the moment. We did talk about it earlier as well, right? Like the knights from Lucifron ultimately are going to be superior.
Exactly. So it's a tricky situation to be here for CSO when you just know ultimately that the more this knight-on-knight action goes on, the worse it will get for you, especially when it comes to an engagement from them. I mean, in a way, you can kind of outplay superior knights with raids, but up against a player like Lucifron, that's definitely not going to be easy, as both players, that by now really having developed a reputation, tremendously effective knight players, are now duking it out with their favorite unit of choice. Lucifron definitely has the advantage in that regard. CSO taking a little break in terms of massing much more further units to get up those 9 manas, now all the way up to 9, and Master of the Nobles is also coming in, so it is going to be, I think, 12 Demi-Lancers? No, 11 Demi-Lancers in for him as well, which, although not, not the strongest of units in the game. Yeah, exactly. He's going to really pad his numbers, but again, I mean, we spoke before, right? No color of S's means his knights are just weaker.
We do see the final relic split here at the moment, 3-2 relics. So CSO did a great job when it came to securing at least a couple of relics up against the Delhi here. Now also trying to just distract Lucifron here by moving his army in 2 separate places. And just means that Lucifron, he's got to be careful because he doesn't really have any walls. He doesn't really have that much of a security economy. I say that, but Delhi, they do also have the free upgrade with being able to garrison villager inside of houses. So it's not like CSO can really go for any major base trades here at any point in time, as Lucifron should always be able to keep his villagers safe one way or another.
Exactly, so raiding with CSO desperately needs with these knights is going to be further offset thanks to that garrison ability for the Delhi with the houses. And CSO recognizes now that this can't really keep going at this pace. He will just get outmatched when it comes to a direct engagement with those knights. So crossbowmen on the way for him as well. And keep up for Lucifron on the berries. However, massive surround.
Big surround!
With the mass, so many villages are going to die here. You can see already the economy. Suddenly, CSO over 10 villages ahead in combination manas.
Yeah, that is absolutely brutal here. We are starting to see the upgrade coming in on that keep, though. Village Fortresses is going to allow Lucifron to start training villagers from the keep. So every single additional keep will act as another town center here for him. But that is going to be a while off at the moment, so not something that he can immediately utilize for additional scaling. He does cause some idle time in CSO space behind this. Knights are also chasing after the knights from CSO behind this, but it is a lot of villager kills and more happening in the woodline right now once again, as CSO just brilliantly splitting up his military, his large knight military, into separate groups, and once again just finds so much value at different sides of the map.
Exactly. I mean, CSO has to use these knights around here to try to get some raids, and Lucifron is going to try to do the same. He needs to find some counter damage after the tremendous raid that he got. And 24 spearmen just out of nowhere in queue. I'm not sure he actually has the barracks needed to.
How many barracks is that?
They're being added. Let's see. So there's at least 4, 5, maybe more being added as well.
Yeah, could be much worse. But 25 spearmen being added right now, that is a big army here, and it's going to counter out every single unit that Lucifron has out on the field at the moment. So Lucifron, he's on a very small timer here at the moment as he continues diving in with his knights. He feels threatened. He needs to do some damage here at the moment. Is able to pick off some of the crossbows here. Still has those Ghazi Raiders helping him as a great counter unit against that. But the army, just a lot of them are busy on other sides of the map trying to fight off the harassment, and there's still a white tower inside the base from CSO, making it so difficult for Lucifron to apply pressure here.
Yeah, exactly. And once this composition is fully in for CSO, with the crossbows, with the spearmen as well for him, which do benefit from that -1 armor reduction onto enemy units when they do come into contact, it could be difficult for Lucifron from then on. However, massive diving comes in. The spearmen are there to charge from the lancers, and Lucifron will be forced to back away for now. Yeah, they are still feudal, so he could
or maybe the
potentially
Dark
fight
Age
against it.
Yeah. The Spearmen from House of Lancaster don't have a unique Dark Age model, so we're not sure at the moment whether these are hardened or Dark Age Spearmen. If we can select them without the picture-in-picture, they are hardened Spearmen. So these are Feudal Age Spearmen. Castle Age upgrade now on its way.
Yeah, once that is in, they'll definitely trade more than favorably up against those knights. But even without it, Lucifron doesn't really want to take an engagement, although theoretically he could overpower them. He'd still sacrifice so many knights, and as we mentioned before, food is limited, right? Yeah, even with a scholar pole, there are a lot of low HP lancers here, right? So he definitely wants to try to heal them back up if he can, but of course the issue with that is that ultimately you know, you do give away a lot of map control by pulling back essentially what is half your lancers just to heal them, but there's a lot of value to be gained.
Yeah. The Spanish brothers are usually the ones where we do not really see them opening up to the idea of going for Imperial Age with the Delhi. They typically like to finish the game off in Castle Age with that civilization, and yeah, it's just not really on the menu here at the moment, as Lucifron is now also switching to Archers. Now, Archers are going to do great up against the army composition here from CSO. He's still mostly focusing on the Spearmen and the Crossbows, and yeah, that's going to be the army composition. We're also seeing some Yeomen now being mixed in by CSO. He does still have that levying ability from the Lancaster Castle here in order to get a lot of Yeomen out very, very quickly.
Let's see.
Behind this, I mean, Lucifron, he's got a lot of gold in the bank, but he stopped producing scholars, so it really makes me think that he's not really going for that Imperial Age play, which is very surprising to me, as currently in the current meta, that is actually one of Delhi's strong points.
It's really, really powerful if you get it online and you have a little bit of room to get in those upgrades, get in those, of course, Palace of the Sultan elephants in with the hand cannons. However, it's a big risk to take, isn't it? You really need to find a window to do so without giving away too much. And against a powerhouse economy like the Lancaster, we can already see the income per minute. I mean, it's double for CSO in this situation. You can really have your back up against the wall as Lucifron in this situation if you are not careful against an all-in in that Castle Age from the House of Lancaster. So Lucifron, and of course, you know, historically it's Lucifron, right? He's not really the kind of player to sit back and just let a game go to the later phases. If he can kill you, he will, right? So that's probably what he's trying to, finding a window to do further damage, get his archer composition up here to counter out what is now 51 spears. But CSO, as I look away, he was halfway to Imperial Age. I look back a second later, Wingard on the way.
Yeah, Wingard on the way with a massive infantry ball here that he's going to be able to defend with. Lucifron up on 20 archers, but this is actually a small infantry ball here. And Lucifron, he realized, okay, this is a small pickup here for him, as we do see all of these spearmen just getting completely annihilated, evaporated even. One knight falling, but there was like 15 spearmen going down, but now the brace comes in. Lucifron, that is not a fight that he wants to take. He needs to get away. So many braced and stunned knights, though, as 4 lancers do fall to the spears here from CSO, and now the age up has hit. Lucifron, what's the response? Is he going to finally think about going up to Imperial Age? He still has a lot of resource in the bank. He lost some scholars though, and scholars, that's the one unit that you will need a lot of if you want to go for the Imperial Age play. CSO though, he is getting a big army in now, as it looks like he is going for the Wingard company that is accompanied by trebuchets, I believe.
I think that might be the Garrison Command, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it is Garrison
No,
Command.
It is the 8 Spearmen. Yeah,
8 Spearmen and Osgard. He might opt for the Wingard army with that trebuchet, the 2 crossbows, as well as Spearmen. If he does want to really put on the hurt towards Lucifron's base, that could definitely be on the cards if Lucifron decides to pull the plug on a Castle Age. However, excuse me. So this is for now. Lucifron is quite content just adding keeps and there's so much gold in the bank for him. He could look to keep setting some off. A lot of scholars now being queued up for him, so that will definitely help not only for the healing, but also for that Imperial Age upgrades if he does decide to go for it. But the real problem here is the food, like we mentioned earlier, right? 300 per minute now. Now is the most painful part of a Delhi player's game, that farm transition. And, you know, there are a lot of keeps working over, starting to push Lucifron ahead in terms count here, now up to 77 to CsO 67, not including the manas, of course, is going to take quite some time for this transition to be complete and for Lucifron to be safe.
Yeah, a lot of keeps are going up for Lucifron at the moment, and he does have pretty much every single Castle Age upgrade finished here at the moment. Single Lancer at the moment doing some damage here, but Lucifron in theory has enough villagers to just fight that Lancer with the villagers and textiles coming in overtime here. Just paying off so much as not a single villager dies to that Lancer, and the keep is going to go up, courtesy of having the free upgrades. He was also able to get boiling oil already, so this mass infantry ball from CsO, it is not going to get nearly as much value against these keeps as he would probably like. And not just that, but there are more unique upgrades which also add fire armor to those keeps, so it is going to be very, very difficult for CsO to take down all of these keeps, but he is actually just going for landmark sniper potentially halfway through that Dome of Faith already. Mass Wallow Low is getting pulled here as CsO is losing a couple of villagers here on the raids, but honestly, these trades are really bad for Lucifron at the moment. He was at 20 Lancers, now currently he's down to 5, and still very, very far away from his own Imperial Age.
Exactly. You can tell he just really, really wants to get in those favorable trades for him, right? He just wants to really get some counter damage to buy himself the necessary time to get that farm transition going, really propel his economy forward. But ultimately, any trades he takes, especially with Lancers up against Spearmen, are going to be unfavorable as he does not have the economy to effectively remass here, right? I mean, the income per minute is starting to rise for Lucifron, which is definitely what he needs, but there's such a significant army now cornering around his base. But the issue is that, you know, there's so many Spearmen. There's a lot of archers for Lucifron as well, but CsO can just keep pumping this army with garrison command very cost effectively and just trade out with that Imperial Age elite upgrade quite effectively.
Yeah, behind this, Lucifron does have a lot more villagers by now. And I think he's finally starting to realize, okay, I cannot fight this out in the in Castle Age. I need to follow up with my own tech up. And just a minute from now, he will have enough resource for the Age up. There isn't any siege out on the field at the moment for CsO, which he will need. Can we take a look at the stats of one of the keeps here from Lucifron, as he does have bonus fire armor on that? He hasn't researched it yet. It's Imperial Age. Oh, okay, he doesn't have it yet, but it's actually only going to take a minute once he hits Imperial Age for an additional 10 fire armor.
Yeah, exactly. And that's definitely going to be quite helpful for him in this situation, as I think once that Imperial Age does come in for him, CsO is really going to look to put on the hurt. Decent raids, however, by Lucifron, right? He found some value, took out a fair amount of CsO's villagers. His economic count is now double, of course. CsO does have those manas going for him to tide him over as his villager numbers start to climb again. But if Lucifron is able to weather the storm here after this Palace of Sultan goes up and survive what is likely to be a ruthless push from CsO, with those free upgrades, with those elephants, he might be able to start really pushing back and put the hurt into CsO's base.
Yeah, Lucifron, he already has the perfect army composition here going for himself. Mass archers with elephants. That is the prime Delhi army composition. You just want to have these free premium units with the elephants coming in. You just want to support them with your trash units at the moment, which is going to be the archers, which also deal perfectly with the spearmen. A lot of upgrades are getting clicked immediately. Villagers are seeking shelter inside of these houses at the moment. We don't have the firearm upgrade coming in yet, and he definitely is going to need us. We do see the spearmen just putting up a big amount of damage here against the keep at the moment. Boiling oil is doing some damage, but it's not going to be enough, as keep number 1 has been taken down now by CsO.
A third ranged armor upgrade is coming in for CsO as well, and now elite army tactics in as well. Actually, Scootage only now coming in for CSO. Definitely quite a delay on that one. Something he would have loved to have had earlier. Maybe got or just didn't find the res for it earlier. We do have Gunpowder Regiment in for him as well. One comes in to defend the Dome of the Faith. Of course, CSO will notice and move away just in time as CSO from all sides striking with just what is essentially a sea of spearmen washing over Lucifron's base at this point in time. And the elite upgrade on those archers is coming in nice and quickly, but it will be a little while out still, only halfway done now, just over. And CSO is just diving relentlessly at this point in time. However, the keeps that are up for Lucifron will do a great work here on the defense.
Yeah, indeed. Like, CSO, he's already lost a lot of spearmen here now behind this, and more spearmen are going to be going down throughout this all. It's just that Lucifron, he didn't manage to have full uptime on his scholar production all throughout, so he doesn't have that many scholars to get these upgrades in very, very quickly, these technologies. Typically, once we see Imperial Age, you love to see Delhi having at least like 20 scholars garrisoned inside of mosques or monasteries in order to really get these upgrades in at lightning speed, and that not being the case at the moment for Lucifron does set him back by quite a bit, but he does have a very, very good resource bank. The raids that he did cause earlier, the effect is starting to show. CSO is below 1,000 food per minute. Lucifron, he's got a very good food bank behind all of this.
Indeed, and that food bank will be
elephants.
definitely necessary in this situation, right? So we see now Lucifron has an immense number of archers going up at this point in time, right? So they will be very useful up against those spearmen and the yeoman. Elite yeoman upgrade is coming for CSO as well, so that would tide over up against the archers. But this is desperate defense that now Lucifron has to make, as 2 Palace of the Sultan elephants are out now. One goes down so quickly for him. That's a big, big loss here for Lucifron, as CSO just keeps pushing ever forward in this situation.
And this big mass of archers, it is starting to push forward now. We do have Republicans, but archers are going to be able to do a very, very good job up against them. Republican immediately down to half HP, gets picked up now. And now the archers are going to be able to just kite back all of these spearmen. They don't really do too much here, and even the Demi-Lancers, they don't have as much armor as normal knights, but CSO, he's still hitting from the other side in the economy from Lucifron, hemorrhaging villagers. And yeah, I mean, Lucifron, he is still in trouble here, idling a lot of the economy now.
These choke points are really going to help out Lucifron in this situation. He's able to trim the amount of spearmen that are gaining access towards his backline. Less of them can attack, thanks to, of course, being melee units. But behind this as well, he's getting pushed from the northern side by yeomen and spearmen, as well as Osgard as well under that keep. The keep will push away the mass somewhat, but the economic numbers is dwindling. However, with so many keeps, he's able to replenish quite quickly for him. We can see just the sheer number of upgrades that Lucifron has in queue for him, which will make a tremendous difference to his hold here if they do come through. But they are all of them a while out still for him. Notably, however, the elite archers are in, so that's going to be very, very useful for him. But more culverins on the way for CSO. One is doing work with reduced damage compared to a regular bombard or a cannon, but with 2 now on the field, he'll really start to put more hurt onto the infrastructure here from Lucifron.
Yeah, we do finally have the first monastery coming in now for Lucifron with incendiary arrows on the way, but only 8 garrisoned scholars here at this point in time means that these upgrades are coming in very, very slowly currently for Lucifron. So still quite a ways off for these upgrades to be coming in, and he needs to start trading out a little bit better here. CSO has switched up his army composition now. He is starting to mass up a large amount of Earl's Guard, so a very, very strong unit overall, especially up against the Tower Elephants, actually, as the Tower Elephants do not have any melee armor, and I do believe that the dagger throw from the Earl's Guards do melee damage, so should be able to do a lot of damage with that dagger throw up against the elephants, as we do have the elephants start pushing across here now, together with the rest of the army. And yeah, we can just see, oh my god, big
massive money shot comes in.
That was crazy. The synchronized shot just taking down 10 archers, was it, there in a single instance. And yeah, see, so these Earl's Guards, they don't take a lot of damage from these archers at all, especially with elite army tactics behind it all.
Yeah, again, another Palace Elephant goes down there for Lucifron. These are tremendous losses for him to take, but, you know, against... They're such slow units at the end of the day, so if you ever want to push out here as Lucifron, you do run the risk of them starting to fall to that Spearman mass here from CSO. CSO, however, is switching up his composition somewhat, right? We see a lot of Yeoman now on the field, combined with the O's Guard as well. It's going to make for a very potent, rounded composition for him. Meanwhile, for Lucifron, he's going to start adding in those Guards. He's do tremendous against the Yeoman. But still, the sheer number of O's Guard are still unanswered. Lucifron recognizes this and is going to start mixing in hand cannon. But as we saw just earlier, there's a big danger with having these light ranged units up against those yeomen, because if you just don't pay attention for a second, when that volley comes in, you can lose all of them so quickly.
And the economy once again just being idled out here from Lucifron. Just a couple of these units doing so much damage there to the economy. The Cannon Elephant is starting to come in now. Sultan's Tower Elite Elephant is doing some damage here to these raiding forces. More universities being added in, but it's still only 9 scholars garrisoned at the moment for Lucifron. He's still researching incendiary arrows 5 minutes later, while CSO has gotten it in behind all of this. So yeah, CSO at the moment, his army has the technology advantage up against the Delhi, which shouldn't realistically be the case in most games, but CSO is able to make it work here, still flooding in a lot of military. Triple Culverin now starting to take down the static defensive buildings here from Lucifron. He is trying to get more and more units out on the field, more Ghazi Raiders, but another synchronized shot. Lucifron does manage to dodge it. Still, the army mass is just so big, and the 4 Culverins are able to do quick work of any elephants that are coming out here from Lucifron.
And elephants is something that will soon become a memory of the past here for Lucifron as well, with the Palace of the Sultan now just a ruin in terms of its former self. No more Sultan elephants here for Lucifron. And these 4 Culverins, not only are they extremely effective against those elephants as well as buildings, but up against infantry as well. They will do huge work, nearly one-shotting these archers here from Lucifron. And like you mentioned, the university upgrades are just so slow here for Lucifron. They're just much he can do about it. He made all the scholars that he can. However, behind the CSO has complete uncontested map control. We can see just the sheer amount of gold income and the bank that he has behind this. There's 3 large gold veins on this map. All of them are being mined by CSO, and Lucifron knows it's just too much. Way too much damage has been dealt. There's no further chance to answer this army anymore, and CSO does manage to crawl back in this set with a victory and keep himself going.
Yeah, 2-1 now for Lucifron. So CSO able to get a point up on the scoreboard with the House of Lancaster here. And truly, I mean, looking at the military count, this absolute flood of spearmen. And Lucifron, while he did manage to do some great damage with his raids every now and then, he did manage to also just trade out very nicely up against the Knights from CSO. He was not able to really transition well enough into the late game there with the Delhi, and in the end CSO able to just swarm him with the very cheap units that you can get out from the Wingard there at the end, and yeah, in the end, able to win this game. But this is still a best of 5. So Lucifron not out yet. This is only the first game now that CSO has won. It is still match point for Lucifron. So one more win, and he will able to push past this into the final set for the qualifiers. And next up, we are going to be seeing Carmel coming in with Ruse for Lucifron up against the Malians for CSO.
And the map of choice is going to be Carmel, it looks like, right? So, I mean, this map, right? There's just so much food on this map, isn't there? A tremendous amount of day compared to regular map, almost double, if I'm not mistaken. And for a civilization like the Rus, that is a jackpot for them. Rus just such an oppressive pick on most maps, but on maps with a lot of day, especially maps with not so much gold, like Carmel in this situation, because gold is something Rus has of plenty, quite passively as well behind it. Malians, on the other hand, are in a similar situation, but their passive gold is reliant on those pit mines and those houses, which can be taken down with relative ease if they find themselves on the back foot here. They also benefit a lot from the day, you know, when you do have a lot of day as the Malians, that Frimber garrison especially can become a very very attractive choice when you can really get out those number of Mansa Javeliniers especially, which is a great choice up against the Horse Archers. And it's, it's one dynamic that can make this matchup very interesting.
Exactly. All right. I believe we're just going to take a quick 1-minute break to fix some technical difficulties, and we will be right back with game number 4 between Lucifron and CSO. See you in just a minute.
Hey, my name is Myriad, and I'm an Age of Empires 4 pro player. I've been playing since release, and my choice of mousepad is the Steelseries Speed. The Steelseries Speed allows me to get my mouse quickly across the surface and smoothly so, and stay at the top level. If you fancy a bit of help getting there yourself, get yourself one as well.
The wait is over. For the first time ever, you get next-gen power in gaming earbuds, giving you flawless wireless. That's plug and play. And spatial audio with active noise cancellation. They just keep on playing. And with great power comes great possibilities. Now you've got 100+ audio presets at your fingertips. So you can hear bad guys better.
Candidates that don't really mind that too much. Both the Rus with their bounty and the Malians with their pit mines, and also landmark generating additional gold for them here.
Exactly. Both civilizations benefiting a lot from that plentiful day that you spoke of, as well as the gold on the map that can be gained passively from them. Because normally there's very low amounts of it, right? But we spoke of Rus with those hunting cabins, with the bounty from food gathering rate, as well as the high trade house. And then the Malians with the pit mines can get a tremendous amount of passive gold income as well. It means that the gold is not as big of a problem for them. However, historically this matchup definitely a little bit Rus favored, but Malians can be one of the civs, thanks to their unique nature, that have the tools necessary to really pack a punch and put up a fight.
Exactly. I think overall, like Mali, they feel like a really good counter against most of these like cavalry-focused civilizations. You get the Dunzos for the long-range cavalry snipes. You get the javelin throwers up against the cavalry archers here from the Rus. Means that Rus are somewhat forced into either utilizing their mobility to their fullest, but taking straight-on engagements will feel really, really bad up against the Malian army. So maybe we are going to be seeing a little bit of a switch-up here when it comes to the army composition from Lucifron. Might just not we need to be going for mostly infantry-based army composition with cavalry mostly just reserved for raids.
Yeah, that can be quite common, right? And notably here for Rus, another option for them as well can be that secondary TC added in, because the threat from the Malians can potentially be the Grand Fulani Corral, similar to how we saw in the last game. Once the food runs out for Rus, even though they have a fantastic economy behind it, it can get a little bit scary when the Malians don't really have to worry about that problem. So having a secondary TC in for them nice and early can really help pad their economy. And I mean, as we say that, Lucifron,
oh god,
just a little bit of a mispaying of attention, loses one of his scouts and just essentially gifts over 4 sheep here for CSO. He does have 2 other scouts who would pick up the sheep in time potentially, but CSO misses no beat and is there to collect the sheep.
Yeah, that is I mean, thankfully, it's Carmel, so there's a lot of food to be had anyways, but these are the sort of like small middle mistakes that can happen that can cost you games in certain scenarios. Luckily, this is a matchup. There's a map on a matchup where it's not the end of the world here, I want to say, for Lucifron. Golden Gate is now coming up for him. Manzikori being built for CSO with the Malians here in the meantime. And, it's there's the writing on the wall right next to the word gullible here. At the end of the day, like these 2 civilizations on this map, we're going to be seeing a pro scout play one way or the other from both players here, I imagine.
Exactly. It would just be something that's, it's way too effective to pass up here for either side, right? I mean, although the deer are safe for either side on this map. So because of that, we have often seen 2TC plays, foregoing Pro Scouts entirely, combined with walling. The problem is that, if you go for that 2TC, often you need walling to accompany it, but the extreme open nature of the map means that walling is very, very expensive here, so that will be hard for either player to implement in this case, as Lucifron is pushing in the deer pack, and the deer packs, although they are safe on your side, they are further away, at least most of them, than the safe deer pack that you would have on other maps, so it takes a little while to push them in, but Lucifron doing a great job so far, as CSO hasn't suspected this so far yet, or if he has, he hasn't found the time to deny it yet, and, you might think, he's good getting Pro Scouts anyway, what's really the point of pushing this in? They take a long time to carry home, especially nowadays, so just pushing in a deer pack before that technology comes in saves you so much time.
Yeah, exactly. It's just having these deer very, very close to your base, like cutting down the travel time from roughly like 30 seconds for a scout trip down to like 10, 15. It really does impact a lot now that the Pro Scouts have been nerfed to the point where the movement speed is just very, very slow here for them. So you just get a lot more value out of it. And it really does add up. And we see like Lucifron even pushing the remaining deer even further. And he realizes just how much value there is to be gained from pushing these deer in further and further.
Precisely. And it's worth noting, those warrior scouts from the Malians will do great work up against Lucifron's own regular scouts. However, Lucifron can easily add in a barracks or even archers of his own, or indeed both, to help offset that scout disadvantage strength that he will find himself under shortly here. The CSO looks to potentially go on the aggression with his scouts. Most of them are going directly towards Lucifron's side of the map. And once they make their way there, we could really start putting on the hurt. And Lucifron recognizes this threat, right? Barracks on the field, one spearman on the field already, second one in queue, more likely to follow as well, to really secure himself all the deer necessary. And it's going to be archery range as well.
And look at that. That is a lot of deer just being collected immediately here. Lucifron really utilizing that early deer shove there to its maximum. And you can just tell, like, that is a very, very good spot to be in at the moment. CsO behind that, he is adding in his own second pit mine now. He's got his own warrior scouts now currently also out and about and actually stealing a couple of the deer away from Lucifron's side of the map. So able to be a little bit cheeky here, and these warrior scouts, they do move a good little bit faster here.
Yeah, the extra movement speed combined with the extra damage is going to be very useful for CSO in this situation. Forcing out these units from Lucifron is great value here for CSO, as Lucifron is kind of forced to just have them on the defensive just to secure his own safe deer that he needs under that town center and get that super gathering rate in from those deer. CSO does now have his second pit mine up and running, wheelbarrow on the way for him as well, and Sofa now being added as well, which after their buff several patches ago are now a pretty capable Feudal Age unit. Javelin throwers on the way for him as well to offset those archers, and indeed spearmen.
Yeah, spearmen at the moment. Now CSO, he's actually going for some Sofa here at the moment, so very interesting. Sofa, of course, are like a little pseudo knight here for the Malians. A little bit less armor, a little bit less damage, but also a little bit less cost associated with them. And also javelin throws here. Very good unit against ranged units, so archers will have to watch their step as the javelin throwers are going to make quick work of them. Dons as well. See, so he's going for the entire mixture here, whole army composition, but I don't think that Lucifron will stay in Feudal Age for too long. Thing is always to keep in mind that Malians are probably the best civilization to play when you're at attack disadvantage, as they do have units that are able to at least somewhat partially counter every single type of unit that your opponent has available to them in the Castle Age.
Exactly right. They have all the answers necessary to offset a tech disadvantage, except the veterancy naturally, but the counters are there for them, so they don't mind being an age behind for an extended period of time, unlike most other civilizations in the game. Lucifron, however, using his military presence to try to put on the aggression onto CSO side of the map, which is definitely something you would expect from a player like him. Behind it, however, he doesn't want to overextend too much, as the high trade house is now being rushed up with 13 villagers. And Crackedy, are we going to see horse archers?
It's a very difficult choice to make, isn't it? Because Horde Archers, sure, they're a very, very strong unit for raids. They're pretty good in mass up against just about anything as well. But yeah, they just die way, way, way too easily to the Javelin Throwers, which are also relatively mobile. So we are seeing additional stables coming in now for Lucifron. I'm wondering, though, what unit exactly he wants to go into. Is it going to be Horsemen or Knights now? That is going to be the question here for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good thing to have the stables because especially the Horsemen will do great work up against Javelins, especially if they are Mancer Javeliniers for that matter. Whereas, Raid on the other side as well, though, for CSO. 2 Sofas and a Warrior Scout. I'd allowed that wood line from Lucifron. I think he may have picked up a Villager, but I'm not quite sure. Maybe not, actually. The Javelin throws. They can do decent up against the Spearman with kiting, but not in these low numbers. CSO has to be careful, losing one of the Javelins, but takes out 2 Spearmen from Lucifron in turn. 1 is left barely hanging on to life as he's bleeding at this point in time. And it's going to be Knights as the unit of choice for Lucifron, which, I mean, knowing Lucifron, not much of a surprise there, right? Veterancy coming in for them now as well. And when he gets that Blacksmith up, most likely Boyar's Fortitude will be heavily prioritized for him. And Monastery being rushed up as well. And I mean, this is important, right? You need to get those relics in ASAP. The Warrior Monks, with their superior mobility due to being mounted, they can get those relics in ASAP. And all of those relics are really going to boost Lucifron's income further.
Exactly. Farimba Garrison now being rushed up behind all of this, though, by CSO, so he will want to get some of these improved Manza units going for himself. Typically, the unit that we will be seeing is the Manza Javelin Thrower, but at the end of the day, like, usually go for this when you already have a big mass of Javelin Throwers. Currently, CSO, he's only got 5 of them out on the map, and if that unit mass doesn't really go up, like, the Javelin Throwers won't be able to really bring him that much value, especially since Lucifron already has a very solid counter with the Knights out on the field.
Exactly. And CSO recognizes the threat. More and more Donzos coming out on the field now, as well as Javelins in for him behind this as well. Now being upgraded to Veterancy themselves. 1 Warrior Monk in queue. They're going to start gathering up those relics, and Lucifron's Knights now moving across the field. A notable lack of economic upgrades here for Lucifron still. That's one of the risks you take going for Knights like this. They are so heavy on the gold. Ensure you have great gold income as the Roost passively, as well as even more if you do decide to gather from it. But it does mean that it's going to be a bit harder to fit in those so useful economic upgrades, and the window to add them in will need to be found sooner or later here for Lucifron. The gathering is still underway here for CSO, as he used a lot of his Warrior Scouts quite aggressively, so a lot of his day was slow to come home, and that is going to hurt him a little bit in this situation.
CSO does realize that there's a lot of Knights at the moment out on the field here from Lucifron, so is also starting to add in some more Donzos now. Veterancy on those have come in as well. Also trying to deny some of the relics here, as the Javelin Throwers are trying to move into the middle of the map, but that is very dangerous because these Knights, while there isn't that big of a gap between the mobility, thanks to the Mancer Javelin Throwers just being a little bit faster, they are still quicker than them, and they're going to have to run away here. At the same time, a little raid coming in as well. Monk actually getting taken down, that is some big value here, and just a sliver of HP left. Knight's gonna commit, will take some damage though.
Yeah, the first Monk there from CSO does go down. He does have another one on the field. Looks to be towards that relic on the right side, or maybe that one's just being guarded at this point in time. Yeah, just being guarded. Warrior Monk right then comes in, but he's going to be met by 2 very angry Sofa and Warrior Monks. However, the Warrior Monk is quite tanky, so he will be able to secure the Wololo and buy some further time. CSO not paying attention though. The Warrior Monk might just get away.
Yeah, it's just gonna take a little bit of an honor round here in order to try and sneak past them. And actually, CSO, he's not chasing after him. He's going in the opposite direction. That is going to be another relic that Lucifron is going to be able to return. And I mean, if you get all 5 relics, 400 passive gold per minute here, on top of all the passive gold that you already do get as the Roost here, on a map with limited gold access is so important. I say, as a villager here is also going down from CSO. He's getting idled out on the gold income. And yeah, it's going to be a very rough spot for him, but he is massing up a large ball of Javelin Throwers at the moment. And the Mancer Javelin Throwers can escalate in number to a point where this big death ball can become very, very threatening for Lucifron.
Yeah, exactly. Once the numbers really start climbing, it can be pretty scary for CSO here. But the Javelin numbers are also looking very healthy, right? So, and the Master Javs, although Knights, of course, are technically meant to counter them, the issue is the poison damage over time, especially excels up against these armored units, which the Knights definitely are, of course. The Sophists that we're raiding do go down to those Knights. Steeled Arrow on the way for Lucifron as well is going to be useful up against those Donzos, but the numbers are still far from where Lucifron needs them to be, as he's now forced to evacuate the northern woodline and instead migrate over to the southern one instead. Spears also, actually only just one spear on the field for Lucifron. And the Knights are just hiding for now. He might look for an opportunity here to pounce onto the mass from CSO. But CSO recognizes that threat and backs off.
And Lucifron still has that great mobility here. 9 Knights in queue for him. He's just still heavily investing into that premium unit for him here at the moment. And now Boy's Fortitude on its way as well. An additional 25 health on every single cavalry unit. With even like just having 7 scouts remaining, those still become a very strong meat shield here for Lucifron, should there be a big engagement anytime soon.
Yeah, and the last thing you want as CSO is to attack those scouts, because although they're very effective meat shield, they don't do any damage. So any of those javelins being thrown onto them will essentially be a waste. And with the slow attack speed of these javelins, it's not an ideal situation. We have seen strategies in the past where you just mass scouts as Rus, or even Marlians for that matter, two civilizations which do it very well. Where just because they cost food, they can be an incredibly effective meat shield, as CSO, looking to secure his sacred side, does pick off 2 Knights there from Lucifron. Nice little pickup for him there. And it's still just going to be mass javelins in combination with Donzos here from the Marlians. No surprises due to that Farimba. And the numbers are starting to get pretty scary here for CSO.
And it looks like Lucifron is starting to mass up some archers now behind as well. We're getting back to that classic knight and archer style army composition here from Lucifron. That's what we've seen from him a couple of times now in the set, and it's been working out really well for him. So a little bit of a back to the roots type play here from him. Still, though, as you mentioned, like CSO, he's got a lot of military out on the field. 9,500 army value compared to 7,000 at the moment from Lucifron. Though Lucifron's economy is looking really solid as well behind the CSO. Does have some great income for him as well. Has managed to secure one of the sacred sites, and that at least gives him a little bit of a additional gold trickle in at the moment, as sacred site does provide you with 100 gold compared to relic, which only provides you with 80 gold per minute.
Exactly, and you can see, just like you mentioned, Crackedy, the strength of that Rus economy. Just earlier, Lucifron had 11 of those knights in queue with only 5 villages on gold. So the relics, in combination with that passive income, is so tremendous for him, allowing him to get up these numbers and more in queue for him. But CSO as well, not falling behind here. 55 javelins and 27 donzos. However, Paskaya Tower on the way for Lucifron.
Unexpected, yeah. Lucifron going up with the Paskaya Tower now with a lot of villagers, 28 villagers building that Paskaya Tower. You would imagine that Lucifron right now is suffering from some anxiety. And, you know, there might be a very good reason for that, because there's a large infantry ball pushing across the map from CSO at the moment. We also see just a lot of these individual pink dots making their way towards Lucifron's base. And this Paskaya Tower is positioned right in between those monasteries. So he's going to be able to keep his relic safe, immediately grabbing tithe bonds as well, further increasing the value that he's getting from those relics. And now, might be that we're getting a little bit of a base trade here, but CSO, he will not really want to go for this kind of base trade if Lucifron does have that Paskaya Tower working for him.
Yeah, exactly. And the Paskaya Tower will unlock Stone Wars here for Lucifron, which was not going to pay an effect anytime soon for that matter. But Lucifron behind this is just diving with the knights towards CSO's base. He recognizes CSO's mass in towards his base, so he's going to look to do a lot of counter damage if he can. And there's just not enough army here for CSO to defend. And these knights are very effective at diving. And CSO, instead of turning back, he's just going to try to do his own damage, now torching all these archery ranges here from Lucifron. But Tithe Bonds is now in. Huge additional income on those relics. Elite status on the Knights on the way as well. Now over halfway done for him. And once these units are elited up, it's going to be a really scary army for Lucifron. But the numbers for CSO are only growing further. And even if when those elite upgrades come in for Lucifron, I'm not sure if he has the mass.
Yeah, there is still a ton of idle time being caused, though, on CSO side with the villagers. Same thing goes for Lucifron as well, but the relics, they don't really stop, and CSO doesn't have any cattle here at the moment. Sure, CSO is taking down infrastructure, but he can only realistically take down so much infrastructure until he starts reaching that Spasskaya Tower. Elite now also in on those knights, Elite on the archers also on its way. We do, however, have the high trade house here. It might be just a little bit too exposed. That is a very, very important landmark for the Rus here. So CSO could possibly decide to take that one down here. Knights at the moment still just running around inside of the base from CSO, causing idle time, doing damage. Now with the elite status, once again starting to take some fights, keeping the Donzo mass low here. But the Knights are starting to get rather weak. The HP bar on them, it's dropping lower and lower, now down to 14 Knights. This isn't really a loss of army that Lucifron really want to take here. CSO is still close to 100 military units on the field.
Exactly, and not just any units, right? There is the Donzo with those Mansa Javelinaires, a very scary composition coming in from CSO here. It's worth noting, surprisingly really, that despite these, what is essentially almost a base trade going on here somewhat, neither player picked up too much in terms of direct economic damage to those villages. However, CSO is going a little bit restless now, diving further deep, torching some of the houses. He actually did not opt to torch the trade house, surprisingly. I guess he recognizes now that these knights are starting to back and is a bit potentially reticent to get caught out of position. But as I say that, he starts torching this stable as well. And once these knights are back in Lucifron's base and he connects with the archers, he could look to take out this mass from CSO, but again, the numbers are really scary.
It is going to be very, very dangerous, and there are just so many javelin throwers. CSO, he is very far away from his own Imperial Age, but he did take down a lot of the infrastructure here, a lot of the buildings. Now, Lucifron, he has remassed his army. Well, not really remassed, but he has put them all back to each other again. So is going to be taking the fight now with his entire army inside of his base. But CSO, he's doing a great job of keeping the Donzos behind the javelin throwers. Makes it really, really tough for these archers to start picking them off. But Lucifron, with the great micro, with the great, I want to say, like, clicking awareness, is able to focus them down. And now the Knights, they are still low in number. It's just the power of the poison arrows here coming in. Look at that. The javelin thrower is actually able to take down the elite knights with relative ease. And at the end of the day, Lucifron, he lost a lot of his very, very expensive premium units. 13,000 destruction value to 8,000 at this point in time now.
The power of these Mansa Javelinaires cannot be understated, right? And it's on full display here by CSO. One of the best trading units in the entirety of the game, thanks to that poison damage, thanks to the range, the kiting ability, due to that move speed as well. It's just so difficult to trade up against that unit without siege, without overwhelming cavalry numbers for you to be able to get a surround. They can just kite and shoot. The poison damage adding up tremendously over time, and CSO taking full advantage of that strength and looking to take out Lucifron's strongest civilization in this set, the Rus, as this would be a loss that would be really, really painful for Lucifron. And the longer it goes, it's looking a bit more undeniable as Lucifron, although he may have the tech advantage. To what end, as the army numbers are anemic in comparison to CSO's.
Yeah, CSO, he did an unbelievably good job at keeping his villagers safe during the space trade. We could see that he was not afraid of just sending 40 villagers across the map into a little hidden choke point, just gathering wood for a while. Until Lucifron grew tired of just sitting around CSO space. He lost a little bit too much health on those nights, decided to pull back into space, try and deal with the main army there. And then once CSO thought, okay, now the time is now to pull those villagers back, he's able to get them all back underneath the CC. All the cattle that are stacked up there he's gathering from, and suddenly he even peaked at above 2,000 food per minute there for a while.
Precisely, keeping cool and calm under the pressure of that elite knight raid from Lucifron definitely tremendous work there by CSO to keep himself in the game from losing too many of those villages, finding the chance to sneak them away, just like you mentioned. Now 84 javelin throws, Mansa Javeliniers, 29 Donzo and more in queue. Lucifron is starting to remass here quite nicely, instead now switching to Horseman. And makes me wonder whether it's maybe Horseman that he needed way earlier as well. But of course the issue is then you're not running, a very premium composition, which may not be too big of a problem in this instance. But however, against this composition from CSO, it's just focusing the Donzos with the archers. And meanwhile, the Horsemen just can't really get good connections. It's just, it's just such unfavorable trades, and it takes so long to kill all the Donzos, which just get remassed constantly. And it feels like without Siege, you just can't really engage effectively against this army.
Yeah, for sure. It is definitely very, very tough now. There is still a way, I want to say, for Lucifron to win this game with relative ease. Right now, CSO's entire army is focused on his base. Just invest only into horsemen, send all your villagers across, try to sneak them across and go for landmarks. Like CSO has only 3 landmarks and they're all next to each other. It is a risky move, but it is, I feel like at this point in time, probably Lucifron's most reasonable win condition, as there is just this insanely large death ball of 124 military units making its way towards Lucifron's base.
As crazy as it sounds, I think I have to agree with you, Crackedy. That seems more and more as time passes the only real solution here for Lucifron, just a Hail Mary towards that Malian base. However, I feel like even now the numbers just aren't there. 142 population out of 200 for Lucifron is just not enough. You just need to commit everything, your entire 200 population, to make a play like that potentially work, which Lucifron just doesn't have. He does keep growing that horseman mass, just like you mentioned, but the Rams are working on these stables, right? Biology coming in as well, and textiles, right? So he may have read your mind somewhat, Crackedy. There is a chance that is on the way, and I mean, Tithe Barnes helping soothe him over here somewhat as well. The horsemen are moving now towards the center of the map. He might be preparing to make this move. But does he have enough, Crackedy? Oh, Fort of the Hunter is going up behind it, though.
Oh, this timing. There it is. Bloodlines just came in. And CSO, he didn't realize the army movement at the same time. Now, the mass of horsemen with full elite upgrades is attacking the army from CSO. He was at 120 military. It's down to 80 already, down to 70. They're all going down. Lucifron, he bided his time, and it looks like it was just enough. Small raids at the same time on the board from Lucifron. And he's losing some villagers, but the army mass is going down. 39 units remaining. Lucifron, he's doing it.
What a timing by Lucifron. He could not have picked a better time for this fight. Right as biology finishes, right as CSO is aging up with the Fort of the Hunters, and right as he had his attention split somewhere else as well, with the spearmen behind the Javeliniers, not able to block for those horsemen. Exquisite decision making by Lucifron being displayed here. Now what looked like a done and dusted game for CSO is suddenly flipped on its head as control is completely lost and Lucifron is going for the kill.
Yeah, he is at this point in time. Really, there's only one safe place for CSO, and that is next to that fortress in the middle of the map. But Lucifron, I think for the most part, he just wants to ignore that. He wants to do the same thing that CSO did to him. Go after the infrastructure, tear down your opponent's base, because as soon as there's no more infrastructure, there are no more units coming after you. And CSO, he's got no military left. Every single thing he produces now will just get sniped immediately. Villagers just cannot get to work. There will be no more resources coming in for him as well at this point in time. Just remassing the army seems like an impossible thing to do. Tries to now switch up into Sofa, but with which resources is he going to be able to do that? Any units that come out now at this point in time just get sniped immediately, and GG gets called. Lucifron is going to be able to win the set 3-1 and move forward into the finals to qualify for the Masters of Steel tournament.